Woman brings her daughter to a job interview, and everything seems normal until the CEO walks in, takes one look at the girl's face, and turns pale. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The old alarm clock rang earlier than usual that morning, its relentless buzz echoing through the tiny one-bedroom apartment. Sarah, barely awake, silenced it with a trembling hand. On any other day, she would have hit snooze. But today was different, a day of both hope and desperation. The job interview was set for 9 o'clock sharp, and she couldn't afford to be late. Rent was past due, groceries were running low, and she had exactly $2 left in her purse. Every second now carried the weight of survival. Outside, dawn was breaking, tinting the sky with pale yellows and pinks. Sarah swung her feet off the old sofa bed. She had given up the bedroom for her daughter, Lily, wanting the girl to have a decent place to sleep, even if it meant Sarah's own nights were spent on lumpy cushions. Carefully, she tiptoed past Lily's door. The child was only 5, sleepy-eyed, with hair like spun gold and a smile so bright it could light up the entire room. But Lily was also very perceptive, far more than children her age typically were. She sensed every bit of tension that lurked in the apartment. "Mom?" Lily's sleepy voice called from behind the door, so soft it almost vanished into the hallway. "Are we still going?" Sarah's stomach churned. She hadn't planned on bringing Lily, but a last-minute babysitter cancellation and zero emergency funds had made the choice for her. "Yes, honey," Sarah replied, forcing a reassuring tone. "You're coming with me." Minutes later, the little girl emerged from her bedroom, rubbing her eyes. She wore her favorite pink sweater, frayed at the edges but lovingly mended by Sarah's nimble hands. Sarah was a whiz with a needle and thread, an old skill she'd picked up from her grandmother. Once, she had dreamed of designing clothes. Now she simply hoped to stitch her life back together before everything unraveled. "Why are you sad, Mommy?" Lily asked, peering up at Sarah with those bright, inquisitive eyes. Sarah forced a smile. "I'm not sad, sweetie. Just a little nervous." She straightened Lily's sweater and brushed down her own worn blouse, carefully selected to appear professional enough for an interview. Despite the faint coffee stain and a missing button, it was her best outfit, one she had to make count. A swirl of memories hit her. A single night from 6 years ago when she had been swept off her feet by a handsome stranger at a friend's party. That memory still lived in the corners of her mind, half dream and half regret. A one-time connection she had vowed never to speak of again, a choice that led her to raise Lily alone. She shut her eyes and exhaled slowly, burying the flashbacks. She needed to focus on the future now, for Lily's sake. Time slipped away faster than she liked. The bus was late, her nerves were fraying, and the battered city roads felt endless. When she finally stepped off the bus with Lily in tow, the corporate building loomed above them like a glass fortress. Everything about it felt intimidating, the mirrored doors reflecting a woman and child who looked too small, too poor, too overwhelmed. Inside the lobby, men and women in smart suits strode purposefully across polished floors. The reception area smelled of fresh flowers and expensive perfume. Sarah gripped Lily's hand as they approached the front desk. "I'm here for an interview with Mr. Sullivan," she said, her voice quivering slightly. The receptionist, perfectly coiffed and impeccably dressed, glanced at Lily with a raised eyebrow before handing Sarah a visitor's badge. "The executive floor," the receptionist said curtly, gesturing toward a sleek elevator bank. "Top floor. They're expecting you." Up they rode in silence, Sarah mentally rehearsing her lines about her administration skills, about the willingness to do anything the company required. She was ready to be a receptionist, an office assistant, anything if it meant a stable paycheck. Lily gazed at the numbers on the elevator panel, wide-eyed as though it were a magic show. She was excited by the tall building, not realizing the tension coiled in her mother's chest. Ding! The elevator doors slid open, revealing a hushed, opulent corridor. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a panoramic city view. Plush chairs lined the waiting area, and abstract art pieces hung on the walls, each likely costing more money than Sarah had seen in months. Lily clung to her mother's skirt, shy now. The child could sense the stakes. A smartly dressed assistant appeared, a polite but distant smile on her face. "Ms. Miller?" she asked, scanning a clipboard. Sarah nodded. "Right this way." They were led into a corner office bathed in morning light. The windows behind the imposing walnut desk overlooked the skyline, but Sarah barely noticed the view. Her eyes locked onto the man standing behind that desk, rummaging through a set of papers. Tall, confident, broad-shouldered, with a face that sparked a flutter of déjà vu. In that moment, a shock coursed through Sarah's veins. Impossible, she thought. She recognized those striking features, that faint scar near his eyebrow, the sharp blue eyes that had once held her captive years ago. He glanced up. Their gazes collided. She swallowed, her pulse racing. Could it be? The man's expression morphed from polite curiosity to stunned disbelief. His eyes flickered to Lily, who peeked from behind Sarah's leg, and froze. In an instant, the CEO, Andrew Sullivan, seemed to forget the professionalism he was known for. He stared at the child, his face going pale. He's recognized Lily, Sarah realized with a jolt. The color of her eyes, the shape of her nose. Traits so unmistakably his that they felt like a secret scrawled in neon. "Andrew Sullivan," Sarah murmured, her voice catching in her throat, not sure whether to address him as Mr. Sullivan or by the name he'd given her that night. He didn't move from behind his desk, didn't even blink. The papers in his hand slipped to the floor. Silence engulfed the room, thick with unspoken truths. Lily, sensing her mother's unease, looked up at the man. The child's innocent question broke the tension. "Mommy, is he the boss?" Sarah's heart thundered in her ears. She should speak. She needed to say something. But words failed her because the storm in Andrew's eyes was too familiar, too personal. And behind that storm was a truth Sarah had guarded for so long. Lily's father. A father who never knew he had a daughter. A father who now stood here, forced to face a reality that defied all logic. At last, Andrew found his voice, though it came out in a whisper. "Sarah?" She managed a nod, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. I was told the interview was with Sullivan Corp's CEO. I didn't know it was you." He opened his mouth to speak, but only exhaled. His gaze kept snapping back to Lily, who wore the same shape of eyes he did. The child stared curiously at him, her tiny face tilting in that precious, unguarded way that only children do. Sarah could almost see the puzzle pieces forming in Andrew's mind, each realization building upon the last. No one dared to break that moment. No one except Lily, who glanced around, then turned her attention back to Andrew. "Hello," she said, her shy voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Lily." Andrew swallowed hard, every detail hitting him like a tidal wave. The heartbreak in Sarah's eyes, the little girl who looked just like him, the memory of a single night, a party, a sudden spark, and a farewell. When he'd woken up the following morning, Sarah had vanished without a trace. And now here they were, 6 years later, bound by a child who bore his face. A trembling hush settled between them. For a moment, it seemed none of them could breathe, as though time itself had paused to witness this impossible reunion. Andrew's assistant, still hovering near the door, realized something profound was happening. She excused herself quickly, closing the door behind her. Clearly, this was far beyond a normal job interview. Sarah's mind raced. She needed this job. Yet she also dreaded the questions, the accusations, the heartbreak that would follow once Andrew confronted the truth. Should she run again? Should she try to explain everything here and now? Before Sarah could decide, Andrew cleared his throat, forcing composure. Let's sit, he said, stepping away from the desk. His legs felt unsteady, like the floor beneath him had shifted. He gestured to a set of chairs by the window. Lily climbed onto one, smoothing her sweater. Sarah took the seat next to her, hands clasped tight. Andrew lowered himself into the seat across from them, struggling to keep the corporate mask from completely crumbling. You came for an interview. You need a position?" Sarah nodded mutely, feeling a surge of shame that she had to ask him for help. I didn't want it to be like this," she managed, her eyes darting to Lily. Andrew followed her gaze to the little girl. It was all he could do not to break down then and there. "Sarah," he finally said, voice trembling, "why didn't you tell me?" In the silence that followed, Sarah could almost hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. The question hung, heavy with implications. She had no easy answers. She had no plan. Everything she thought she could handle alone was unraveling in front of her child's eyes. And this time, there was nowhere left to run. For a moment, Andrew fought to steady his breathing, inhaling slowly until the thunderous pulse in his ears dulled. Questions spun in his mind, colliding with old memories. How many nights had he replayed that evening in his head, the spontaneity, the surge of connection, only to wake and find her gone without a trace? Now, that very woman sat before him, and the child at her side looked like a mirror of him from long ago. Sarah's mouth felt dry. The weight of Andrew's stare was almost unbearable. She saw heartbreak behind his eyes, but also a flicker of tenderness whenever he glanced at Lily. I tried to find the right moment," she said, hands twisting together. "But life happened, and I had no idea how to reach you. Your name, back then you only said Andrew, and I—" She trailed off, memory failing her. The day after their one-night connection, she woke to find he was gone, leaving only a scribbled name. No phone number, no last name. Nothing. Just Andrew. It was one night. I never thought. Andrew exhaled shakily, his voice very low. "Sarah, I would have been there for you. You—" He paused, rubbing his eyes as if warding off a dull ache. "You have no idea how many questions I had when I woke up and realized you'd left. I didn't even know your last name. I figured you'd changed your mind, that maybe it was just some fleeting thing for you." He swallowed hard. "But I never forgot." Sarah held Lily a little closer. The child's confusion was growing. Lily stared from her mother to Andrew, sense of puzzle forming behind her small features. "Mommy," she whispered, "is this man a friend?" Sarah forced a small, reassuring smile, though tears threatened. "He's someone I knew a long time ago." Then she looked at Andrew, her eyes moist. "I had no way to find you, and I was scared. After Lily was born, I needed to take care of her on my own. I moved. I tried to contact mutual acquaintances, but nobody knew you. I was broke, alone. I just tried to survive." She let out a shaky breath. "I didn't even know you had a company, or that your last name was Sullivan until I got called for this interview." Andrew's mind reeled at the cruel joke of fate. For years, his father had insisted on building a Sullivan legacy, urging Andrew to step into the role of CEO. Andrew had done it half-heartedly, never fully letting go of that night, clinging to a ghost named Sarah. And now, here they were. Fate, or coincidence, had dropped them into the same room. He glanced at Lily again, noticing the shape of her nose, so reminiscent of his mother's side of the family. It made his chest tighten with a potent combination of awe and guilt. He cleared his throat, desperate to steady himself. "So, you brought her here because you had no one to watch her today?" The edge in his tone came from lingering shock, but Sarah flinched as if struck. "I lost my sitter," she said quietly. "I can't afford daycare this week. If this job works out, maybe I can find something more stable for Lily. That's why I'm here, Andrew. I'm out of options. Andrew sank back in his seat, exhaling a long breath. This woman, who once disappeared from his life, was now on her knees financially, raising his daughter alone. The complexity of emotions nearly overwhelmed him. Part of him felt betrayed. Another part felt anguished that he had missed 5 years of Lily's life. And then there was the quiet thrill of seeing a piece of himself in the child who gazed at him curiously. He shook his head. "You shouldn't have to beg for an opportunity." Sarah's cheeks burned. "I'm not begging." "I know," Andrew interrupted gently, forcing softness into his tone. "That's not what I meant. You've been through enough. And I'm sorry that I didn't know about Lily." He looked down, voice faltering. I would have been there. I would have given anything to be in her life." Silence settled again, broken only by Lily's small shifting in her chair. She picked at the hem of her pink sweater, eyeing Andrew from under long lashes. "Mommy says you're the one who decides if she gets the job," Lily said, voice faintly quivering. She understood enough to sense the tension. Andrew's heart squeezed. A father's instinct he never realized he possessed stirred inside him, making him want to protect Lily from the harshness of reality. "Yes, I make those decisions," he murmured, leaning forward to meet the child's gaze. The clarity of her eyes wrenched something open in him. "I might make one right now." Sarah stirred uncomfortably. Don't do me any favors. If there's another qualified candidate, I get that. I just need a fair shot." Her pride still sparked, even as vulnerability trembled in her words. Andrew was torn between business protocols and a fierce personal drive to help them both. "Of course, we'll have a fair interview," he conceded, glancing at the resume she clutched in a battered folder. Though, he paused and eyed the rust stains on the folder. "To be honest, you might be overqualified for what you applied for. Administrative assistant, right?" Sarah nodded, blinking back tears of relief that he hadn't dismissed her outright. "I'll do anything. I just need a chance." Her voice trembled. Andrew nodded, eyes flicking from Lily to Sarah. No matter how rattled he felt, the caretaker in him, the father in him, wanted to intervene. He cleared his throat and forced his posture straighter, adopting a semblance of professional demeanor, though inside, his heart hammered. "Okay," he said carefully. "We'll handle the details. Let me see your resume. We'll talk about your skill set. Then we'll talk about how to move forward." He extended a hand. Sarah passed over the folder. It was thin, her life condensed into a few typed sheets. Andrew studied it, quickly noting her strong background in sewing and design, her stints in retail, a short period in a data entry role. The list was patchy, and the dates showed the time she must have been pregnant, then raising Lily. Each gap told a story of sacrifice. "Do you have references?" he asked, flipping a page. Sarah nodded. "They're at the back. One is from my old employer at the boutique. Another from a friend who helped me with some contract sewing." She swallowed. I've been out of steady work for a while. Lily got sick 6 months ago, and I had to leave my shift job because they wouldn't give me time off. I've been cleaning houses for cash ever since, but that's not enough. Bills keep piling up." She trailed off, ashamed to be sharing so many details, but feeling Andrew's quiet empathy more than pity. Lily watched in silence, clutching Sarah's arm. At length, Andrew set the folder aside, hooking his fingertips together. "You have a design background. My company often outsources creative projects. We also have a big marketing department. Have you ever considered applying for something more in line with your skills?" His voice was measured, but warmth crept in. Perhaps he was already imagining her potential in a role that went beyond filing or answering phones. Sarah's cheeks warmed, a flicker of hope tugging at her lips. "I always dreamed of being a designer, but I never had formal training. It was just me and my grandmother's sewing machine. I'm not sure a real company would take me seriously in that area." Andrew's gaze softened. You'd be surprised. Then, trying to maintain composure, he pushed forward. Look, for the short term, we can definitely see about the administrative position. But I'd like to talk more about how your design skills might fit with some of our side projects. He swallowed, suddenly aware of the swirl of emotions he'd been repressing. We have a lot to figure out. About Lily. About us. Sarah nodded slowly. The mention of Lily's future brought a fresh wave of tension. She deserves to know her father, if that's what you want. Her breath caught. I never meant to keep her away from you, Andrew. But you have to understand, when she was born, I had no way to track you down. Andrew rubbed the back of his neck. I understand. But in his eyes, regret shimmered. Time we can't get back, but at least we have now. He looked at Lily once more. She offered a timid smile, and something broke inside him. A new sense of purpose, overshadowing any resentment or blame. He wanted to know everything about this small child who shared his features, who innocently tugged on Sarah's sleeve, whispering she was thirsty. He wanted to fill the years he'd missed with fatherly devotion. Let's get you both some water, Andrew said. We'll continue this conversation in a calmer setting. He rose, smoothing his suit jacket, trying to collect himself. Actually, let me ask my assistant to bring refreshments. He paused. The mention of an assistant reminded him, how would it look to employees if he abruptly offered this woman a position? Gossip would be inevitable, but that was the least of his worries now. Lily's well-being and Sarah's came first. Sarah stood, picking Lily up in her arms. The girl was light as a feather, but the burden of their shared life struggles felt heavier than ever. Following Andrew toward the door, Sarah stole a quick glance at the cityscape beyond the windows. The sun was still bright, the day just beginning. Was it a sign that their lives might take a brighter turn? In the hallway, Andrew's assistant hovered, eyes flicking curiously between them. Sir, is everything okay? Andrew nodded, summoning a calm authority. Yes, bring us water, please, and maybe some juice for the little one. He glanced at Lily. Do you like orange juice? The girl nodded, a small smile ghosting her face. Sarah, seeing Andrew's thoughtful gesture, felt her defenses slip another notch. She had arrived fearing rejection. Now a torrent of possibilities stirred. Could Andrew step into Lily's life? Could Sarah find a place in this corporate world? The swirl of uncertainties threatened to overwhelm her. Minutes later, they settled in a smaller conference room, a more casual space with plush chairs and a small couch. Lily munched on a cookie the assistant had offered, while Andrew and Sarah sipped water in silence. The tension was still thick, but beneath it lay a current of relief that they had finally found one another, even under such stressful circumstances. Andrew cleared his throat, peering at Lily. So, Lily, do you like drawing? Dolls? Movies? The little girl nodded, a crumb on her chin. I like to draw dresses, she said shyly. Mommy shows me how. A spark lit Andrew's eyes. There it was, confirmation that Lily carried more than just his features. She had Sarah's creative spark, maybe even his hidden business drive. He felt the tug of fatherhood anew. Sarah watched them, heart fluttering. She had dreaded how Lily would react to a man claiming to be her father, but children were adaptable, more so than adults sometimes. If Andrew stayed gentle, Lily would find room for him in her world. Sarah only hoped this wouldn't fall apart before it began. Andrew leaned forward, voice hushed. Let me help you both. I can't turn back time, but I can make sure from now on things are different. You won't have to worry about rent or food or Lily's care. Sarah held up a hand, tears threatening again. I can't accept charity. I want to work for what we have. He nodded, understanding her pride. I'd never disrespect your independence, but if you become part of this company, if you're on the payroll, then you won't have to struggle alone anymore. It's not a handout, Sarah. It's a real job, and you'll earn every cent." Their eyes locked. In that silent exchange, 1,000 feelings passed between them. Regret, empathy, guarded hope. Lily, sensing calm, slid off the chair and walked over to Andrew, offering him her cookie as if to seal a new bond. Andrew, voice catching, thanked her softly. Then Sarah spoke, voice quiet but firm. "All right, I'll do my best. And Lily deserves a father in her life." She paused, fearful of Hope's betrayal. "We can figure out the rest as we go." Andrew placed a hand gently over Lily's, then caught Sarah's gaze. "Thank you." And though the day had begun with fear and desperation, there in that conference room as the morning sun reflected off the skyscrapers, it felt like something else had a chance to blossom. Something neither Sarah nor Andrew had expected to find again, a path to a future they might share. Together. The rest of that morning felt like an out-of-body experience for Sarah. In a single hour, she had managed to find both an unexpected job opportunity and the father of her child, two life-altering events colliding in an office suite high above the city. Yet oddly, no tears were left to spill. She felt drained and jittery all at once, like she had survived a harrowing ordeal only to stumble into brand-new territory. While Lily sat near a corner of the conference room sketching little stick figures and flowers on a piece of paper the assistant had given her, Andrew gently spelled out practical matters. He told Sarah there would be standard paperwork to finalize her employment, offered her a role that could combine administrative duties with the possibility of moving into a design-related position, and even mentioned a more flexible schedule to accommodate Lily's needs. "I can start you on a probation period," he said, trying to maintain some formality, yet his voice held a faint tremble whenever he glanced at Lily. "We'll have a clear job description, salary, and benefits, including health insurance." He paused, scanning Sarah's worn expression. "If that works for you." Sarah smoothed her hands over her lap, still grappling with how drastically her life might change. In the space of a day, she had gone from near desperation to a cautious sense of promise. Yes, of course," she answered carefully. I want to make sure Lily's taken care of, and I don't want special treatment just because of—" She trailed off, swallowing the words that pressed behind her lips. "Because Lily is your daughter. Because I used to love you in the span of that single night." Andrew nodded. "Understood, but please remember it's the least I can do. I want to help, not just as your boss, but—" He hesitated, eyes flitting to Lily. "As a father," he finished quietly. Even though Sarah had braced for it, the simple word father sent an ache through her chest, a swirl of relief and panic. Lily, who had been half listening, looked up again and blinked, as if trying to piece together the grown-up conversation. The truth was, Sarah had never told Lily the full story. How could she explain that the man in the fancy suit, the one with those sky-blue eyes so much like hers, was the dad she had never met? "Mommy, can we go home soon?" Lily asked, voice hushed. "I'm hungry." Sarah glanced at her watch, both shocked and not shocked to find it was nearly lunchtime. "Of course," she replied, rising. Then she turned to Andrew. "Thank you for meeting with me like this. For everything. I can start tomorrow if you'd like." Andrew gathered up a couple of business cards, offering one to Sarah. "We'll do the paperwork first. My HR department can expedite things. Here's my direct line." His gaze shifted toward Lily. "Maybe we can discuss other matters afterward." The quiet question underneath that statement was clear. Would Sarah allow him to see Lily outside of work? Would Lily accept him in her life? They were stepping onto shaky ground, where legalities and hearts clashed. But Sarah steeled herself. "We'll figure it out. Let me just talk to Lily in my own way." Andrew offered a small, hopeful nod. He walked them to the elevator in silence. Office staff cast curious glances. Few people were accustomed to seeing the CEO personally accompany a job candidate, much less a young mother with a little girl in tow. But Andrew ignored the questioning looks, pressing the elevator button while Lily clung to Sarah's leg. Before the doors slid open, he turned to Sarah, voice quiet. "I'll have my assistant forward any forms to your email. Tomorrow you'll come in and meet with HR officially. We can also arrange a brief orientation." Then, more softly, "And later this week, maybe dinner? The three of us?" The last sentence emerged with a slight tremor, an almost boyish plea in his eyes. Sarah's heart fluttered uncomfortably. She wanted Lily to know her father. She feared the upheaval it might bring, but ultimately she found herself nodding. "All right," she said, forcing a gentle tone, "but let's see how Lily does, step by step." A flicker of gratitude crossed Andrew's face. The doors opened and Sarah stepped in, Lily's small hand clasped in hers. Andrew watched them until the elevator closed. In that fleeting moment, his world had shifted irreversibly, an entire future he hadn't even known he desired until now. Down in the lobby, Sarah walked outside with Lily and was met by the noise and bustle of midday traffic. The bright sunshine almost mocked her roiling emotions. She found a bench near the bus stop and sat, exhaling a tremulous breath. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was soft. "Why is that man so nice?" Sarah smiled, though it quivered at the edges. "He's someone who really cares about us. Remember I told you that you didn't have a daddy? That he went away before you were born?" She brushed a stray curl from Lily's forehead. "Well, that man might be your dad." Lily stared up with wide eyes, lips parting. For a moment she processed the concept, looking not so much surprised as curious. "Does that mean he loves us?" Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. Children saw life so simply. "Yes, sweetie," she whispered, hugging her close. "He wants to love us, and we can love him if that's what we decide." Inwardly, she realized the road ahead would be more complicated than Lily could grasp. But for now, that small bit of reassurance was enough. They made their way home on the bus, Lily dozing against Sarah's shoulder. A swirl of relief, terror, and unexpected excitement churned in Sarah's chest. She was employed, or nearly so, and Lily might finally have a father in her life. But was it truly safe to trust Andrew? This wasn't the carefree, smitten man from her single night years ago. Now he was CEO of a major corporation, living in a world Sarah could barely comprehend. Later that afternoon, as she prepared a modest lunch of grilled cheese sandwiches in their cramped kitchen, Sarah's phone chimed with an email notification. Sure enough, the subject line read, "Onboarding documents from Sullivan Corp HR." She scanned it. A digital packet, background check forms, standard NDA, company policies. All so official, it almost felt surreal. She filled out some of the forms on her phone, hesitant when she reached the question about emergency contacts. Could she list Andrew? It felt presumptuous, but she had no one else. A wave of shame rolled over her at how isolated her life had become. With a sigh, she left that field blank for now. All the while, Lily colored quietly at the small table, occasionally humming a tune from her favorite cartoon. At one point she asked, "Will that man come here?" Sarah paused. "He might. Or maybe we'll meet somewhere else," she answered, tone cautious. "Would you like that?" Lily nodded. "He was nice. He looked sad, though, like he wanted to give me a hug but was scared." Sarah's chest tightened. Children saw more than they were given credit for. "Maybe," she whispered. "Grown-ups can be scared sometimes." Afternoon waned. Sarah typed out a tentative text to Andrew, letting him know she'd completed the forms. She added a polite thank you, then hovered over the Send D button. Should she say something about Lily's reaction? Offer to meet for dinner that very evening? Nerves jangled, and she backspaced half her note, retyped, then sent a simpler version. "Finished the HR documents. Lily's doing well. She remembers you from earlier. Thank you again. Sarah." Almost immediately, 3 dots danced on the screen, indicating he was typing. She held her breath, but then the dots vanished. She set the phone down, exhaling shakily. Maybe he'd changed his mind? Maybe the reality had overwhelmed him. A swirl of anxiety, second-guessing. Had she been too casual, too formal? She busied herself tidying the living area, a cramped space scattered with Lily's crayons and stuffed animals. Curtains hung crookedly. The old sofa bed looked more worn than ever. She suddenly imagined Andrew stepping into this place, his tailored suit, polished shoes crossing the threadbare rug. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment at the thought. But she reminded herself, if he was Lily's father, then none of this should be shameful. It was their reality, and he had a right to see it. As the evening light filtered through the blinds, her phone buzzed. The screen displayed Andrew's name. Heart thudding, she picked it up, expecting a text, but realized it was a call. Quickly, she answered. "Hi," came Andrew's cautious voice. "I'm sorry I didn't text back. I was in a meeting. Now I'm on my way home and, well, I wanted to talk. See how you both are doing." Sarah felt a warmth soothe her nerves. "We're okay. Just finishing up Lily's supper soon." Andrew hesitated. "I was thinking, would you both like to come to dinner tomorrow night at my place? Nothing fancy, I promise. I'll cook or I'll try. We can talk without interruption. Maybe Lily can see a different side of me, if you're comfortable with that." Sarah's immediate instinct was to say yes, yet she warred with the question of whether that was too soon, too much. Lily overheard enough to perk up, her eyes bright. She'd always wanted to eat somewhere nicer than their tiny apartment or the cheap diner down the street. Then the memory of Andrew's uncertain gaze earlier in the day anchored Sarah's decision. He was trying. And wasn't that what she'd wanted all along? For Lily's father to step forward? "All right," she said quietly into the phone, aware Lily was listening. "We'll come. Let me know what time." Relief colored Andrew's voice. "Thank you. 7 o'clock? I'll text you the address. And Sarah, thank you for giving me a chance." She ended the call with a mix of anticipation and fear. For so long she had feared letting a father figure into Lily's life, partly out of bitterness, partly out of fear of rejection, and partly from the simple impossibility of not knowing who to contact. Now that barrier had crumbled, and all that was left was to see if Andrew's convictions could stand reality. If her life, with its struggles and chipped furniture, could blend with his glass towers and crisp suits. That night, she tucked Lily into bed with a story. The child drifted off easily, but Sarah stayed awake, staring at the moonlight slanting through the window. She fingered the edge of her grandmother's old sewing machine, neatly covered in the corner. 1,000 unspoken dreams tugged at her heart, designing clothes for a real brand. Giving Lily a stable life, maybe with a father who could truly love her. Was it too much to hope for? Tomorrow she would begin a new job that had fallen into her lap by sheer fate or by some cosmic design. And tomorrow night she and Lily would step into Andrew's world, a place of wide spaces, well-lit rooms, and possibilities Sarah had never known. She could already sense the hushed swirl of unknown challenges, yet something deep within her remained steady. A voice whispering that this might be the second chance she'd always yearned for. As she finally lay down on the creaky sofa, hugging a worn pillow, her phone chimed once more. A text from Andrew. "Looking forward to seeing you both tomorrow. Sleep well." She stared at the glowing screen until it dimmed, heart caught between longing and trepidation. Then, with a faint smile, she turned it off, letting the hush of night settle over the tiny apartment. Tomorrow, a different path awaited, one that could forever reshape the course of their lives. Morning light filtered through the threadbare curtains as Sarah stirred awake on the sofa bed, the new day's weight pressing down on her shoulders. She sat up slowly, rubbing the stiffness from her neck, and listened for Lily's soft breathing in the bedroom. Outside, city traffic rumbled to life, a steady reminder that her own day, her first day at Sullivan Corp, was about to begin. A swirl of anxiety and excitement churned in her stomach. She double-checked the time on her phone, just past 6. Perfect. Enough time to get Lily ready for school, finalize a quick breakfast, and brace herself for the new routine. The memory of Andrew's invitation for dinner that evening flickered across her mind, stirring a fresh wave of nerves. Could she really juggle all of this at once? Quietly, she slipped into Lily's room. The child was curled beneath a faded cartoon blanket, golden hair splayed across the pillow. Sarah knelt down and brushed a gentle hand over Lily's forehead. "Time to get up, sunshine," she murmured. Lily stirred, blinking sleepily before smiling at her mom. "Is it school day?" Lily asked, pushing the blanket aside. Sarah nodded, helping her daughter stand. "Yes, and Mommy starts a new job today. Remember?" She paused, watching as Lily tried to recall the excitement of the previous day. "We'll have to be super organized this morning, and tonight—" She hesitated. "We'll have dinner at Andrew's house." At the sound of that name, Lily's face lit with curiosity. "He's nice," she said simply, then yawned. "Will he have toys?" Sarah managed a laugh. "Maybe not many, but we'll bring your drawing stuff if you want." In truth, Sarah had no idea what to expect from Andrew's home. She imagined sleek furniture, big windows, tasteful decor befitting a CEO, definitely no scattered crayons on the floor. The contrast to their cramped apartment struck her again. By 7 o'clock, Lily was dressed, hair braided neatly, and finishing a small bowl of cereal. Sarah had chosen her own outfit carefully, a simple navy blouse without stains, tucked into a plain black skirt plus sensible flats. She wished for something more polished but reminded herself it was enough. She could do good work. Her wardrobe didn't define her. They stepped out into the crisp morning air, the weight of the day pressing on Sarah's mind. She dropped Lily off at a half-day children's program run by a local community center. It wasn't as structured as a full daycare, but it was affordable, and Lily seemed happy enough there. Sarah promised she'd pick her up mid-afternoon, then they would head to Andrew's place for dinner. Lily gave a brave little wave and ran off to join other kids, leaving Sarah to navigate the next hurdle, her new job. On the bus ride into the city's commercial district, Sarah clutched her phone, rereading the emails from HR. She replayed Andrew's calm, measured words in her head. Part of her still struggled to believe this was real, that he had offered her a way out of her financial desperation and into a role that, if she proved herself, could open new horizons. Sullivan Corp's towering glass building loomed ahead as she arrived. Stepping through the revolving doors, she felt the same flutter in her stomach as she'd had the previous day. The lobby bustled with executives, interns, and visitors, all radiating an air of purpose. Sarah's footsteps echoed on the polished marble floor as she approached the reception desk. "Sarah Miller, reporting to HR," she announced, trying to sound more confident than she felt. The receptionist gave a polite nod, scanning her ID badge from the day before. Then she directed Sarah to a smaller bank of elevators on the other side. Up on the HR floor, a friendly coordinator named Julia greeted her, leading her into a well-lit office filled with filing cabinets and potted plants. "Welcome aboard," Julia said, handing her a stack of paperwork. "Mr. Sullivan mentioned you'd be starting as an administrative assistant with possible involvement in design tasks. We just need to finalize the usual forms." Sarah's cheeks heated at the mention of Andrew. She nodded, signing where instructed. Julia explained company policies, including hours, pay rate, and health benefits. Each point felt like a gift, given how precariously she had lived for months. When they finished, Julia offered a warm handshake. "We're glad to have you. You'll be assisting Ms. Castillo in the marketing department first. She's aware you might eventually transition to other design work if that becomes available. But for now, you'll be handling scheduling, document prep, and some product research. Sound good?" Sarah almost sagged with relief. "Yes, that's perfect," she said softly, voice tinged with gratitude. Thank you. Julia walked Sarah to the elevator, explaining she'd meet Ms. Castillo on the 17th floor. As Sarah stepped in, she found herself praying silently for a smooth day, praying she wouldn't bump into Andrew at a wrong moment or appear incompetent in front of new colleagues. The elevator soared upward, and with each passing floor, Sarah mentally steeled herself. When the doors slid open, she entered a sprawling open-concept office with large windows letting in natural light. Rows of cubicles lined one side, while the opposite side featured glass-walled meeting rooms. People bustled about, carrying laptops and stacks of papers. A bright sign read, "Marketing and Creative." A short, stylish woman with cropped hair approached, Ms. Castillo. She had a quick, appraising glance. "You must be Sarah Miller," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Maria Castillo, Associate Marketing Director. Mr. Sullivan, mentioned you might be handling some admin tasks for us. Let's get you settled." She led Sarah to a small desk near a bulletin board plastered with ad concepts and brand slogans. A brand new company laptop sat waiting, along with office supplies. Sarah felt a swirl of gratitude. She gently ran her fingers over the laptop's smooth surface, marveling at the fact that it was actually hers to use. "Let's start you off easy," Ms. Castillo said, handing Sarah a folder. "We have a product launch in 2 months. I need help organizing the schedule, following up on vendor quotes, that kind of thing. You'll coordinate with me and my team. We'll see how it goes." Her tone was brisk, but not unkind. "Any questions?" Sarah shook her head, adopting her most professional smile. "I'm ready." Work began in earnest. For the next several hours, Sarah immersed herself in spreadsheets, meeting invites, and email correspondence. She quickly realized her past data entry job helped. She navigated files with a steady efficiency. Occasionally, a curious colleague stopped by to introduce themselves, and Sarah responded politely, though she was keenly aware of her outsider status. Still, no one treated her like she didn't belong. Around noon, Ms. Castillo dropped a stack of printouts at Sarah's desk. "We need these scanned, sorted, and emailed. Here's the updated product images, by the way. Some are from an external design firm. Maybe check the labeling, see if it's consistent." She paused, noticing the way Sarah studied the color palettes. "You have an eye for detail. Mr. Sullivan said you have design experience?" Sarah swallowed. "Not formal schooling, but and I've always been interested in fashion. I can try to help with consistency if you want." Ms. Castillo quirked a brow, impressed. "All right, let's see what you've got." She handed over a branding guidelines manual. "Familiarize yourself. We'll talk more later." Sarah managed a small smile. She didn't want to overstep, but excitement crept in. This was a glimpse into something she once only dreamed of. She set to work, mind buzzing. By 2 o'clock, she had completed the tasks, cross-referenced the color codes, and even flagged a few errors. Ms. Castillo, upon review, gave an approving nod. "Sharp eyes, good job." Pride flared in Sarah's chest. For a brief moment, she forgot her worries about meeting Andrew for dinner, the tension of Lily's uncertain introduction to a father figure. Right now, she felt capable. She was earning her keep. She was good at this. Time slipped by quickly, and soon she realized she had to pick up Lily. Heart pounding, she glanced at the clock, 3:30. She cleared her throat, approached Ms. Castillo. My schedule might need a bit of flexibility," she began cautiously. "I'm a single mom, and I have to pick up my daughter. Mr. Sullivan said it would be okay?" Ms. Castillo waved a hand as if it were no big deal. "Of course, we can figure out a routine that works for you. Go. I'll see you tomorrow morning." She paused, eyes flicking over Sarah's neat desk. "You did well today. Keep it up." Gratitude radiated through Sarah. She quickly shut down her computer, grabbed her bag, and took the elevator down. Her first day had gone smoother than expected. No major mistakes, no stares of disapproval, and Andrew hadn't appeared at her desk to fluster her or overshadow her presence, for which she was oddly grateful. She still wasn't sure how to handle him mixing personal with professional in front of everyone. Back at the community center, Lily ran into her arms with a bright smile. "Mommy, I drew a picture!" she exclaimed, waving a crayon masterpiece of a house, 3 stick figures, and a big sun overhead. "Is that me, you, and the cat?" Sarah asked, noting the little figure in the corner. Lily shook her head. "It's you, me, and Andrew," she said, as though it were obvious. "He's tall." A lump formed in Sarah's throat. "He is, isn't he?" They rode the bus home in the late afternoon light. Once inside, Sarah let Lily snack while she freshened up. Then she coaxed Lily into putting on a clean dress, one of the nicer ones Sarah had sewn herself, a soft pastel fabric with a simple embroidered flower on the collar. Lily beamed in the mirror. Sarah changed into her single good blouse, a soft cream color, and tidied her hair. Anxiety nipped at her. What if Andrew's home felt too grand? What if Lily accidentally spilled juice on some expensive carpet? She had no clue what life in a CEO's residence looked like, but she imagined it was worlds away from their humble apartment. Eventually, she summoned an app-based ride, unable to handle the complexity of 2 bus transfers in the evening. Lily held Sarah's hand as the car weaved through city streets, the sun dipping lower in a wash of gold and orange. Sarah could feel her heart pounding louder with each passing block. Finally, the car turned onto a quiet, upscale street flanked by tall trees and well-kept gardens. The driver slowed in front of a modern condominium building with a doorman at the entrance. Sarah paid the fare, and her pulse kicked into overdrive. Inside the lobby, polished marble floors gleamed, and an intricate chandelier cast soft light. A doorman greeted them politely, as if used to seeing well-heeled visitors. Sarah flushed, hoping her outfit was acceptable. They took the elevator up to the 10th floor, heart thudding at the thought of stepping into Andrew's private space. At last, they arrived at the correct unit. Sarah hesitated, then rang the doorbell. She heard muted footsteps. The door swung open, revealing Andrew in a casual button-down shirt and jeans, a warm smile on his face. "You made it," he said, gaze dropping to Lily. "Hi there." Lily gave a shy wave. "Hi," she whispered. Andrew's eyes flicked to Sarah with a mixture of relief and gratitude. "Come on in." They stepped inside, and Sarah's breath caught at the airy, open layout. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a glittering view of the city skyline. A sleek sofa, modern decor, everything looked tasteful but not ostentatious. The faint scent of something cooking wafted from the nearby kitchen. She noted children's books and coloring pads laid out on the coffee table, as if Andrew had tried to prepare for Lily's arrival. Andrew took a small breath. I attempted pasta," he admitted sheepishly, "but if it's inedible, there's always takeout." A slight grin softened his face, betraying a boyish nervousness she found oddly comforting. Lily wandered past, eyes wide. She stopped at a big window, pressing her hands to the glass. "You can see all the buildings," she said in wonder. Andrew moved to her side, carefully kneeling so he wouldn't tower over her. "Yeah. Sometimes you can watch the sunset from here and it paints the sky orange," he pointed. Lily nodded, rapt. Sarah observed them, her heart twisting at the image. A father and daughter, sharing a moment that should have been theirs for years. Could they build that bond now, piece by piece? "Let's eat before it gets cold," Andrew said. He led them to a small dining area where plates of pasta waited, complete with simple salad and a loaf of bread. It looked surprisingly cozy, the table set for 3. Lily slid into a chair and Andrew helped tuck her napkin in place, an awkward gentleness in his movements. Sarah took in the scene, feeling a wash of gratitude and sadness all at once. Andrew offered water glasses, and Lily giggled when he poured her a cup of juice carefully. Sarah tasted the pasta, slightly overcooked, but she smiled, touched by the effort. "This is nice," she said softly, meeting Andrew's eyes. He exhaled, relief evident in his posture. They ate with quiet conversation, Lily chiming in about her day at the community center. Andrew asked thoughtful questions, leaning forward like every word mattered to him. Sarah watched the interaction, recognizing a hesitant father desperate to make a connection. After dinner, Andrew cleared plates while Lily wandered around, curiously eyeing the bookshelves. Sarah moved to help with dishes, but Andrew waved her off. "Let me," he insisted. "You should rest. You worked today and I want to do something." She relented, stepping aside to observe how smoothly he fit into this caretaker role. For the first time, she glimpsed a future in which they navigated the everyday tasks of parenthood together. Eventually, they settled in the living room. Lily perched on the couch, doodling in a coloring book Andrew had bought, while Sarah and Andrew stood near the window, voices hushed. "You were right," Andrew said, face lit gently by the dim lamp. "She's amazing." Sarah nodded, glancing at Lily. "She's my whole world," she whispered. "I didn't know how you'd react or if you'd even believe me. But seeing you with her, I'm glad we found you." Andrew's throat bobbed. "I'll never forgive myself for missing her first steps, her first words. But I promise, I'm here now." He paused, swallowing. "I want to be in her life, Sarah. In both of your lives." She heard the raw sincerity in his tone. Fear crept in, but so did a fragile hope. I'd like that," she admitted, voice trembling. "But let's move forward carefully. I don't want Lily to get hurt if things don't work out. You have a busy world here, a big company, and I just started working for you." Andrew nodded, understanding the unspoken tension about mixing personal and professional. "We'll take it day by day." He brushed a hand lightly across her arm, then caught himself stepping back. A swirl of unresolved feelings flickered between them, reminiscent of the night they'd once shared. But now it was tempered by the responsibilities of parenthood, by the caution life had taught them both. Before they left that evening, Lily shyly offered Andrew a picture she'd drawn. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a bright sun, similar to the one she'd shown Sarah earlier. Andrew accepted it with misty eyes, promising to put it on his fridge. Outside in the hallway, Sarah and Lily waited by the elevator as Andrew stood at his doorway. "Thank you for dinner," Sarah said softly. Lily nodded, hugging Andrew's leg in a swift burst of affection before running back to her mother's side. Andrew's smile wobbled, emotions brimming. "Anytime. I'll see you tomorrow at the office?" Sarah returned the smile. "Yes, tomorrow." The elevator doors opened and they stepped inside. Andrew's figure lingered in the doorway until the doors closed, leaving Sarah with a fluttering hope in her chest. During the ride down, Lily clutched her small drawing pad. "He put my picture on the fridge," she said with pride. "He's my friend now." Sarah's heart squeezed. "He is," she murmured, holding Lily close. "And maybe he's a little more than that." The elevator dinged, and they stepped into the quiet lobby, heading out into the night. Above them, the lights of Andrew's apartment glowed high in the building, a beacon of possibilities that Sarah could not yet fully imagine. A new beginning, uncertain but undeniably real, lay just ahead. And together, whatever that meant, they would face it, one day, one step, one hope at a time. Sarah had always thought of mornings as a rush of routine, pouring cereal for Lily, making quick coffee if she could afford it, and dashing out the door to catch the bus on time. But now, as the early rays of sunlight warmed her modest kitchen, she realized her life had begun to slip into a different rhythm. She had a stable job, if only temporary to start, and Lily had a father who wanted to be present. It felt almost too good, like standing on a narrow ledge with a breathtaking view, terrified that one false step could send her plummeting. On this particular Wednesday, Lily was uncharacteristically awake before Sarah. The little girl hummed quietly, turning pages in a picture book. Sarah watched her from the sofa bed, heart twinging with affection. That childlike sense of calm and wonder reminded her that, no matter what might happen at work or with Andrew, Lily was still the bright center of her universe. "How about scrambled eggs?" Sarah offered, rubbing her eyes. She had a bit of extra time now. Andrew had given her a flexible schedule so she wouldn't have to arrive at the office until mid-morning. Lily perked up, nodding eagerly. While whisking eggs in the cramped kitchenette, Sarah mulled over the last few days. Her second day on the job had gone well. Ms. Castillo seemed pleased with Sarah's efficiency and gentle suggestions on design tweaks for their marketing materials. A few co-workers still eyed her with curiosity, but no one had pried about her connection to the CEO. Sarah was grateful. She wasn't ready to be the subject of office gossip. "Are we seeing Andrew today?" Lily piped up from the table, voice muffled by the plush teddy bear she clutched. Sarah swallowed. "I don't know, sweetie," she answered carefully. "He's very busy, but maybe we'll talk after I'm done at work." The truth was, she had no idea. Andrew had texted a polite, "Good luck at work today," the previous morning. But that had been followed by a wave of corporate silence, likely from his endless meetings and obligations. A tiny part of her worried he might have second thoughts about stepping into their lives so quickly. But she pushed that anxiety down, reminding herself that Andrew had proven himself more than once in these early days. Once Lily was fed and dressed, Sarah brought her to the community center. They exchanged their usual hug at the door, the little girl bounding off to join familiar faces. Then Sarah caught the bus into the city, cradling a mild sense of anticipation. Part of it was the job. She felt a spark of excitement each morning she reported to the marketing floor, feeling like a true professional for the first time in ages. But an undercurrent of hope also rippled through her whenever she thought of Andrew. She couldn't deny that she longed to see him. By mid-morning, Sarah was at her desk, sorting through a flood of emails and event planning notes. A flurry of tasks from Ms. Castillo kept her comfortably busy, scheduling product demo dates, checking brand color codes, drafting a summary of marketing materials to present in the next meeting. Despite the newness of it all, she found herself navigating each assignment with a calm competence, her hands moving swiftly over the keyboard, her mind steadily focused. Every so often she sensed movement nearby and half expected Andrew to appear, perhaps on a routine pass through the department. But by lunchtime he hadn't shown up. She tried to ignore the minor pang of disappointment and, instead of lingering on it, decided to eat her packed sandwich at her desk. Just as she took her last bite, Ms. Castillo approached, a stack of color proofs in her arms. "Sarah," she began, "I know you're technically in an administrative role, but you have a good eye. Could you check these images? The design team is making final edits and we want to ensure they're consistent with the brand mood board. Mark any discrepancies you see." Sarah blinked. "Of course," she said, taking the proofs. "I'd be happy to help." Ms. Castillo's expression softened with what might have been approval. "Thanks. When you're done, bring them to my office." Sarah spent the next half hour reviewing each proof, carefully comparing everything to the brand guidelines. She caught subtle mismatched hues, places where the font size varied, small alignment issues. It felt gratifying, like she was making a real contribution beyond scheduling. She meticulously jotted notes on sticky tabs. Rising from her desk, she smoothed her skirt and made her way to Ms. Castillo's corner office. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and a large table was covered in ad mock-ups. Ms. Castillo beckoned Sarah over, reviewing her neat stack of corrections. "Your notes are good," Ms. Castillo said after a quick read. "Sharper than some of our junior designers. Ever thought about training for an actual design position?" Sarah swallowed, feeling a spark of hope flare. "I've always dreamed of design," she admitted softly. "But I never had formal schooling. I didn't think I'd be taken seriously." Ms. Castillo nodded, lips pursed. "You might be surprised. I've seen plenty of talent that didn't come from a fancy university. Keep up the good work here, and there could be room for growth. We have an internal training program you could apply for eventually. No promises, but I'll keep an eye on your progress." Warmth bloomed in Sarah's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. I appreciate that, really." After leaving Ms. Castillo's office, she felt buoyant, stepping back to her desk with renewed vigor. She dove into the rest of her afternoon tasks, occasionally glancing at her phone in case Andrew texted, but it stayed silent. Around 3, she signed out for the day to pick up Lily. The moment she walked into the community center, Lily greeted her with a grin and a flurry of papers covered in fresh scribbles. "Mommy, I learned a new song," the girl declared. "That's wonderful," Sarah said, feeling her earlier tension ease. She listened patiently as Lily sang a little tune about shapes and colors, clapping at the end. Then, taking Lily's hand, she headed out into the crisp air, mind drifting toward Andrew again. She could text him, but part of her was wary of seeming clingy. Yet the memory of Lily's face lighting up at his name urged her to reach out. Finally, once they boarded the bus for home, she typed a brief message. "Hey Andrew, hope your day's going well. Lily's asking about you. Let me know if you'd like to meet sometime this week. Sarah." She hit send, heart thumping. No immediate reply came as the bus bumped along. She distracted Lily by pointing out landmarks through the window. Soon, they reached their stop, and Sarah guided Lily along the sidewalk to their building. At home, she emptied Lily's papers from her backpack and started dinner preparations. Just as she stirred a pot of rice, her phone chimed. Andrew's name flashed across the screen. She answered quickly, pressing it to her ear. "Sarah, sorry, long day." His voice sounded tired, yet relieved to connect. "Meetings ran over and we had a board discussion about expansions, the joys of corporate life." She offered a sympathetic smile, though he couldn't see it. "No worries. Everything okay?" "Mostly. It's just a lot," he replied. Then there was a soft pause. "But I was thinking about you two. I miss Lily's drawings already. Listen, do you both have time this weekend? We could do something fun, maybe the park or a kids' museum." Sarah's heart lifted. A weekend outing sounded like a dream for Lily. "She would love that," she said. "Saturday morning? Perfect. I'll pick you up if you'd like. Or we can meet there, whatever's easier." A faint wave of embarrassment swept over Sarah at the thought of Andrew seeing her run-down building, but her practical side said it might be simpler if he came by. She took a breath. "Maybe you can pick us up. We don't have a car seat, though." "Don't worry," Andrew said gently. "I'll get one. I should have done that already, actually." The ease of his willingness to adapt tugged at Sarah's heart. She pictured him wrestling with car seat instructions, determined to keep Lily safe. "All right, Saturday then," she agreed. They talked for a couple more minutes, mostly about scheduling. Before hanging up, Andrew added softly, "Thanks for letting me in. I know this is sudden, but I promise not to rush things faster than you're comfortable with." Sarah's eyes stung with unexpected tears. "We're taking it day by day," she echoed. Then she ended the call, exhaling the breath she'd been holding. Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Is that Andrew?" the child asked. "Yes," Sarah said, crouching to Lily's level. "He wants to take us to the park on Saturday. How does that sound?" Lily broke into a grin. "Yes, yes, yes." She bounced on her toes. "Can we get ice cream, too?" Sarah laughed, hugging her daughter. "We'll see. First, we have to get through the rest of this week, then the weekend will be extra special." In the following days, Sarah fell into a new balance. Half her time in a swirl of tasks at Sullivan Corp, half her time managing Lily's routine. Each afternoon she'd slip away to pick up her daughter, and each evening they'd share a small dinner at home, often exchanging stories about their day. Sometimes Andrew would text a friendly update or call at night to ask how Lily was, his voice tinted with longing and regret for lost time. By Friday, Ms. Castillo asked Sarah to sit in on a short design critique meeting, just to observe. Sarah found herself quietly absorbing how the creative leads discussed typography, color theory, and brand identity. She itched to contribute more than nods, but she didn't want to overstep. During a break, one of the junior designers sidled up, whispering, You catch on fast. Are you in design too? Not yet, Sarah replied. Just learning the ropes. When the meeting resumed, Sarah noticed Ms. Castillo glance her way, as if to see if she had anything to add. Tentatively, Sarah offered a suggestion about adjusting the brightness levels in certain images so they aligned better with the overall brand color palette. The team turned to her, surprised. But Ms. Castillo raised her brows in what looked like approval. "That's a solid point, Sarah," she said, tapping a pen against the table. "Let's note that." Sarah's heart soared. For the first time in ages, she felt recognized beyond being the new assistant. She left the meeting with her pulse humming, determined to keep improving, keep learning. And as she shut down her computer that afternoon, her mind drifted to the next day. Saturday, the day she and Lily would go to the park with Andrew, a real family outing of sorts. She walked out of the building, mind still buzzing with design notes and hopes about the weekend. The evening sun cast long shadows across the sidewalk, reminding her that her world was in flux. She was no longer standing on the outside, but edging her way inward into a space of possibility. Andrew was reaching out, Lily was blossoming, and even Ms. Castillo saw potential in her. And though Sarah had learned to be cautious, a seed of excitement flickered. Perhaps at last, her life was tilting toward a future where she and Lily didn't just survive, but truly thrived. On the bus ride home, as Lily recounted a funny incident involving paint and a classmate's shoes, Sarah found herself genuinely smiling. Tomorrow, Andrew would pick them up. Lily would meet him again outside the formalities of an office or the hush of his upscale apartment. They'd be together in the wide open air of a park, just a father, mother, and child forging a bond that might have existed years ago if circumstances had been different. Sarah wasn't naive. She knew challenges lay ahead: financial adjustments, tricky office politics, and deeper conversations about the shape of this new family. But for now, as the bus rattled to her stop, she felt a warmth in her soul. She took Lily's hand, stepping onto the pavement. Saturday's promise glowed in her mind like a beacon, a chance to see Andrew in a simple, happy setting, a chance for Lily to realize that this man truly cared for her, and maybe, Sarah dared to hope, a chance for her own guarded heart to find a new sense of belonging, one she had scarcely dared to imagine only a short while ago. Saturday dawned bright and cloudless, the kind of day that invited families and couples to fill the local parks. Sarah woke with nervous excitement knotting her stomach. She had told Lily the night before, "Tomorrow Andrew will take us somewhere fun," and the little girl had all but jumped for joy, barely containing her anticipation. Now, as Sarah slipped out of bed and padded to the kitchen, she realized she felt a similar surge of energy. Something about today felt different, hopeful, almost new. She made a simple breakfast of toast and fruit, her gaze shifting between the clock on the wall and the reflection of her own anxious smile in the window. By 8:30, Lily was wide awake, singing softly while drawing pictures at the small table. Each drawing featured 3 figures: herself, her mom, and Andrew, against some colorful backdrop. "What will Andrew look like today?" Lily asked brightly, coloring in his shirt with a purple crayon. Sarah paused, rinsing a dish in the sink. "Probably a bit more casual than his work clothes," she said with a smile. She pictured him in jeans and a simple jacket maybe. She felt a small flutter, remembering him in that relaxed outfit he'd worn when they'd had dinner at his place. He'd looked surprisingly approachable for a CEO, less imposing, more human. Shortly before 10, her phone buzzed. Andrew's text read, "Leaving now. See you in about 20 minutes. I've got the car seat all set." Sarah exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She checked Lily's outfit one last time, a simple yellow sundress with leggings and sneakers. Sarah herself wore a comfortable pair of jeans and a light sweater, more relaxed than she'd been at any time around him so far. But it felt right for a day of fun. When the knock at the door finally came, Sarah's heart gave a little jump. She opened it to see Andrew standing in the hallway, indeed dressed down in dark jeans and a casual button-up shirt. He was smiling, though a flicker of nerves shone in his eyes. In his hand, he clutched a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Hi," he said softly, holding out the flowers with an almost shy gesture. "Thought these might brighten up your place." Sarah's cheeks warmed. She took the bouquet gently. "They're lovely, thank you." Lily appeared beside her, peering up at Andrew with a grin. He crouched to her level, eyes lighting up. "Hey, kiddo, ready for an adventure?" Lily nodded vigorously. "Uh-huh. Are we going to the park?" Andrew chuckled. "We sure are. A big one with a lake. And I brought snacks," he added in a conspiratorial whisper. Lily giggled, clearly taken by the idea. Sarah's chest constricted momentarily. This was what she had wanted for Lily for so long, the simple warmth of fatherly excitement. After a moment of guiding Lily to put on her little backpack and jacket, Sarah stepped out into the hallway, locking their apartment behind her. She led them down the dim corridor, past a neighbor's door where muffled music played, and outside to the sidewalk where Andrew had parked a sleek SUV. True to his word, a child's car seat awaited in the back. Lily approached it curiously, letting Andrew help her buckle in. Sarah slid into the passenger seat, feeling a hint of self-consciousness as she glanced around the immaculate interior. It smelled faintly of new leather, everything impeccably clean. Andrew slipped behind the wheel, starting the engine. "Ready?" he asked, looking between them in the rearview mirror. Lily gave an enthusiastic cheer, and Sarah nodded, half laughing at her daughter's gusto. The drive took them across town, past rows of shops and bustling morning traffic, until they reached a sprawling public park. Lush green fields stretched out, dotted with oak trees and walking paths. The crisp air smelled of grass and distant barbecue grills. Andrew found a parking spot near the playground, which was already alive with kids climbing jungle gyms and chasing each other around. Lily's eyes gleamed. "Mommy, can I play?" she asked the moment her feet hit the grass. Sarah exchanged a glance with Andrew. "Sure," she said, bending down to remind Lily. "But stay where we can see you, okay?" Off Lily ran, hair bouncing, excitedly joining the throng of children. Sarah and Andrew trailed behind at a more leisurely pace, scanning for a free bench. The morning sun glinted on the nearby lake, where ducks paddled along the water's edge. "She's fearless," Andrew remarked softly, watching Lily scramble up a small climbing wall. He shoved his hands in his pockets. "I love seeing that spark in her." Sarah smiled, letting warmth bloom inside her. "She's always been adventurous, yes, keeps me on my toes." They found a shady bench, and Andrew set down a small cooler bag he'd brought. "Thought we could have lunch here," he explained. Then he turned to watch Lily squealing on the slide. A pensive look crossed his face. "Every time I see her, I realize how many moments I've missed, but I'm determined not to miss any more." His words tugged at Sarah's heart. She reached out hesitantly, placing a hand on his arm. "You're here now," she replied gently. "It's not about what's behind us anymore. Lily's still young. She'll treasure these memories for a lifetime." Andrew slipped his hand over hers. A brief moment of connection that felt as if they were bridging a gap. Then a child's shout broke them apart. They looked over to see Lily waving madly. "Mommy, Andrew, watch!" she called, then whooshed down a spiral slide, landing in a giggling heap. Sarah and Andrew both clapped in encouragement. Eventually, Lily wandered back for a drink of water. Andrew offered her a juice box from his cooler, grinning at the bright cartoon design. "I wasn't sure what kind of juice she liked, so I got a few kinds," he confessed. Lily took it happily, slurping away. Over the next hour, the three of them wandered along the park's walking path, pausing so Lily could feed ducks near the lake's edge. Andrew held her hand to keep her from getting too close to the water, while Sarah snapped a few pictures on her phone. It felt almost surreal, like a series of candid snapshots of a normal family day. She tried not to let fear taint the warmth she felt, but her mind couldn't help reminding her that life had never been this simple. They found a grassy spot under a large willow tree where Andrew laid out a small blanket. From his cooler, he pulled out sandwiches, cut fruit, and snacks. Lily perched cross-legged, devouring her peanut butter sandwich. Sarah chuckled at her daughter's sticky cheeks. Andrew offered napkins with a fatherly air. It all felt strangely natural. Between bites, Lily peppered Andrew with questions. What's your favorite color? Do you like puppies? Can you draw? He answered each one earnestly, as if every query deserved thoughtful response. Sarah watched this interaction with a mixture of gratitude and an odd twinge of sadness. She wished Lily could have had this closeness from the start, but maybe they could make up for lost time. After lunch, Lily dashed off again to the playground, leaving Sarah and Andrew a moment to themselves on the blanket. The park bustled with laughter and distant chatter, and the breeze ruffled Sarah's hair. She glanced sideways at Andrew, who was staring at Lily in the distance, an unreadable expression on his face. "She's incredible," he said softly, turning back to Sarah. "Thank you for raising her to be that." Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat. "It hasn't always been easy," she admitted. "I struggled financially. Some days I worried I couldn't give her what she deserved. But she's always been my bright spot." Andrew nodded, remorse flickering across his features. "I wish I could have helped sooner. If I had known—" He trailed off, shaking his head. There's so much I want to do for you both, but I'm also aware this can't be solved overnight." Sarah shifted on the blanket, plucking a stray blade of grass. "I appreciate the help and this job, but I also want to stand on my own feet. I'm grateful for your support as Lily's father, though. She needs that." Andrew exhaled, relief mingling with understanding. "I get it. You've done everything alone until now. I won't take over, I promise. But I also want you to know you're not alone anymore." The sincerity in his tone tugged at her heart. She dipped her head, letting the moment speak for itself. Then, as if on cue, Lily trotted back, cheeks flushed from running around. "Mommy, can we have ice cream now?" she asked. She'd been talking about ice cream all morning. Andrew laughed, ruffling her hair. "Ice cream it is. I saw a vendor near the entrance." They packed up their picnic, Lily chattering non-stop about her playground escapades. Strolling together through the park, they eventually found the ice cream cart. Lily pointed eagerly at a rainbow-colored sherbet cone. Andrew bought one for her, and for Sarah, a vanilla cone with chocolate sprinkles. "What about you?" Sarah asked, noticing Andrew hadn't ordered any. He shrugged with a playful grin. "I'm more of a coffee guy, but maybe I'll steal a bite from yours." Sarah rolled her eyes but laughed, holding her cone protectively. They walked as Lily contentedly licked her colorful treat, leaving a sticky ring around her mouth. Andrew and Sarah took slow steps, side by side, neither wanting to end the day. The sunlight had shifted, growing a bit warmer, the park slightly more crowded now, yet it felt like they were in their own little bubble. Eventually, Lily's steps slowed, and she let out a tiny yawn. "I'm tired," she announced, blinking at the bright world around her. Andrew glanced at his watch. "It's been quite a morning." He turned to Sarah. "Want me to drive you both home? Maybe Lily needs a nap." Sarah nodded in agreement. So they retraced their route to the SUV, and Andrew gently buckled Lily in, who was half asleep before they even left the parking lot. The rhythmic hum of the road lulled her further into slumber as they drove back toward Sarah's apartment. When Andrew pulled up to the curb, Lily stirred groggily. Andrew cut the engine and stepped out, helping unbuckle the car seat. "I can carry her up," he offered quietly, seeing her sleepy face. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. She led him inside, down the worn hallway to her door. Lily mumbled softly against Andrew's shoulder, eyes half closed. He held her with surprising ease, as though fatherhood came naturally. Once inside, Sarah directed him to Lily's small bedroom. Andrew gently laid her on the bed, sliding off her sneakers. Lily mumbled, "Night, Andrew," in a tiny voice before snuggling into her pillow. Sarah lingered in the doorway, heart aching at the tender scene. Andrew brushed a stray lock of Lily's hair from her forehead, then backed away, turning to Sarah. They slipped quietly into the living room, shutting the bedroom door. Neither spoke for a moment, the hush of the apartment enfolding them. Sarah drew a breath. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "Lily had a wonderful time." Andrew nodded, his voice hushed. "So did I." He glanced around the modest living room, taking in the sparse furniture, the sewing machine in one corner. "I realize this place is yours, your home, and I don't want to intrude, but I'd love to help sometime, maybe fix anything that needs fixing." Sarah's chest tightened with a blend of gratitude and lingering pride. "I manage," she said gently. "But thank you." They both fell silent again, that unspoken recognition passing between them. Two people trying to reconcile the life that once was with the life they were building now. At last, Andrew shifted, quietly retrieving his keys from his pocket. "I should let you rest," he murmured. "You have Lily's nap to catch up on your own things. But if you need anything, call me." She walked him to the door, every step feeling laden with both hope and hesitation. At the threshold, Andrew turned, his gaze dipping to her lips before flicking up to her eyes. For a split second, the world paused. Sarah's heart leaped, but he only leaned in and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek, a delicate, almost reverent gesture. Then, with a subdued smile, he slipped out, footsteps echoing in the hallway. Sarah closed the door softly, pressing a hand to her cheek. Her heart pounded with so many emotions: joy, relief, fear. She realized in that hush that she was letting Andrew in more deeply than she'd allowed anyone in years. And as Lily's soft breathing carried from the bedroom, Sarah swore she heard the quiet promise of a new tomorrow, one where father, mother, and child could finally stand together in the warm light of day, healing old wounds and weaving something whole. Monday brought its usual rush of responsibilities, but in the days since that sunny Saturday in the park, something in Sarah's life felt irrevocably altered. Even the cramped kitchen in her apartment seemed to hold a quieter warmth, as if the memory of Andrew laying Lily down for a nap had left a tangible, comforting echo. Lily, for her part, glowed with excitement whenever her father's name popped up, even in casual conversation. And Sarah couldn't deny she felt it too, a brimming sense of possibilities, humming in the background of her everyday tasks. That morning, she rose earlier than usual, wincing at the alarm's persistent beep. She had decided to take a little extra time on her appearance, just enough to feel more professional. She brushed out her hair carefully, opting for a neat ponytail, and selected a soft maroon blouse paired with simple black slacks. She might still be the marketing department's administrative assistant, but Ms. Castillo was letting her peek into design tasks, and Sarah wanted to convey her commitment. By the time Lily padded out of her room, yawning and dragging her teddy bear, Sarah had a quick breakfast ready. The child climbed onto a chair, rubbing her eyes. "Are we seeing Andrew after school, Mommy?" she asked, words blurred by a mouthful of cereal. Sarah paused, pouring milk for her coffee. "Not today, honey. He's very busy this week, but maybe in a few days. We'll see." She attempted a casual tone, though Lily's question jabbed at the small worry that still lingered in Sarah's mind. Andrew had texted a few friendly messages since the park outing, but he'd also mentioned something about a high-priority project at the office. Busy days in the corporate world usually meant long hours and short updates. Still, she reminded herself that the progress they had made, the job, the budding father-daughter bond, wouldn't evaporate just because Andrew had business demands. "We'll talk tonight," she promised Lily, ruffling her hair. "We'll see what his schedule is like." They went through their normal morning routine. Lily dressed, backpack ready, the short bus ride to the community center. Sarah then transferred to the city line that would take her downtown. She arrived at Sullivan Corp a bit before 9, stepping off the elevator on the marketing floor to find the usual bustle of employees already in motion. As she reached her desk, she discovered a small sticky note left on her keyboard. "Please see me when you get a chance. Monsieur Castillo." Sarah's stomach fluttered with mild anxiety. She'd only been on the job a short while. Could this be about something urgent? She set her bag down, quickly smoothed her blouse, and made her way to Ms. Castillo's office. When she knocked, Ms. Castillo beckoned her in. The associate marketing director sat behind a sleek desk, strewn with color printouts and folders. "Good morning, Sarah," she greeted, swiveling her chair to face her. "Close the door, if you don't mind." Unease tiptoed up Sarah's spine, but she complied, crossing the room and standing near the desk. Ms. Castillo gestured at a seat. "Have a seat. I have something to discuss with you." Sarah sat, folding her hands in her lap. Ms. Castillo flicked through a stack of papers. "First, I want to say you've been doing excellent work. You handle administrative tasks efficiently, but you also show a strong aptitude for detail, especially in design consistency. The creative team appreciated your input on those image proofs last week." Relief coursed through Sarah, and she allowed herself a small smile. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'm glad I could help." Ms. Castillo leaned forward. "I know you don't have formal design training, but this department is about more than degrees. We value skill, fresh perspective, and dedication. I have a proposal for you." She slid a folder across the desk. "We're starting an internal pilot program to mentor employees who show potential in design. It involves weekly training sessions, shadowing our junior designers, and eventually contributing to real client projects. It's part-time while you keep your current role, so you'd be wearing 2 hats." Sarah's eyes went wide, a swirl of excitement fluttering in her chest. Wow! Are you saying I could be part of that?" Ms. Castillo nodded. "Yes, if you want it. You'll have to juggle your regular duties, and the program can be intense, but by the end you'd have a solid foundation in design. If you excel, you might be considered for a permanent position on the creative team." For a moment, Sarah forgot all the caution she normally carried. She felt a thrill of possibility. "I would love to," she breathed, voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for thinking of me." A slight smile curved Ms. Castillo's lips. "You earned it with your attention to detail and proactive attitude. I'll have you fill out some forms for HR and we can finalize a schedule. We'll need Mr. Sullivan's approval too, but that shouldn't be an issue." The older woman paused, lips pursing. "Speaking of Mr. Sullivan, I assume you know him well?" Sarah stiffened. There it was, the gentle dig, the question that hovered around the office. "We met before I started here," she managed. "He gave me a chance when I was looking for work." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Ms. Castillo nodded neutrally. "Understood. There's been some talk, people speculating. It's not my business, but I'd advise you keep your professional boundaries clear. Office rumors can be unpleasant." Heat crept up Sarah's neck. She dipped her head. "I understand. Thank you for the advice." With that, Ms. Castillo swiftly moved on to discuss the next steps for the mentorship program. Sarah listened intently, heart drumming. When she finally left the office, her mind spun in a storm of excitement, nerves, and a hint of dread. She knew Andrew had likely wanted to protect her from gossip. Would stepping into a design mentorship raise eyebrows? Still, the chance was too good to pass up. She returned to her desk, exhaling a shaky breath, then sent Andrew a quick message on the company's internal chat system. "Morning. Ms. Castillo offered me a spot in a design mentorship pilot. I'm thrilled, and a bit terrified. She said it needs your sign-off. Let me know when you have a moment." She hit send, heart pounding. Minutes ticked by as she organized meeting notes and answered emails. Finally, around mid-morning, her screen flashed with Andrew's chat reply. "That's fantastic news, Sarah. I'll approve it ASAP. Proud of you." Andrew. A rush of warmth filled her. She typed a quick thanks in return, careful to maintain a professional tone even though inside she wanted to grin like a fool. The rest of the day flew by with tasks and a swirl of optimism, and though Andrew didn't appear on the marketing floor, his short message reassured her that he still had her back. That evening, Sarah picked up Lily, feeling buoyant from her day's developments. She told the little girl about her design opportunity in simple terms. "Mommy might learn how to make pictures and ads look pretty." And Lily squealed in delight. But the mention of Andrew made Lily pout slightly. "I wish we could see him," she admitted. "I miss him." Sarah's heart clenched. "I know, sweetie, but he's very busy. Maybe we'll call him tonight." That placated Lily for the moment, and they spent the evening cooking a simple chicken stir-fry. Yet Sarah couldn't shake the pang of longing for Lily to have that easy father-daughter closeness, and for her own uncertain feelings toward Andrew, which had grown from a quiet memory to a deep undercurrent of possibility. After dinner, as Lily colored at the table, Sarah finally dialed Andrew's number. The phone rang twice before he picked up, his voice sounding weary but warm. "Sarah, hey." "Hey," she said softly, stepping into the small hallway for a bit of quiet. "Just wanted to say hi. Lily's been asking about you." Andrew exhaled a soft chuckle. "I miss her too. This week's been nuts. Board meetings, investor calls, but I can't wait to catch a break and see you both. How did your day go? I saw the mentorship request come through from HR. Congratulations." Sarah beamed, letting her excitement bubble over. "Thank you. I'm so grateful. And honestly, it's because you opened that door for me in the first place." "I only opened it a crack," Andrew teased gently. "You're the one who walked in and impressed them. I'm proud of you." Her heart skipped a beat at his praise. "How about you? Are you okay with your schedule?" He sighed. "It's challenging, but hopefully by the end of the week, things will calm down." A pause. Then his voice softened. "Maybe we can plan another outing soon, like last weekend. I want to keep building something steady for Lily." Sarah nodded, though he couldn't see her. "Me too. She's been drawing you into every picture." Her voice turned wry. "You're always wearing purple shirts for some reason." Andrew laughed softly, the sound sending a warmth through Sarah's chest. "Then I'll have to buy a purple shirt just to match her artwork." They spoke for a few more minutes, discussing possible plans for the upcoming weekend, but neither wanted to set anything in stone yet, given Andrew's uncertain schedule. Eventually, Sarah passed the phone to Lily, who chatted excitedly about her day and demanded that Andrew promise to take them for ice cream again soon. Andrew agreed readily, sounding genuinely enamored by her every word. When Sarah returned the phone to her ear, Andrew's voice turned gentle. "I'm here if you need me. Any time." "Thank you," she whispered. "We'll be okay. Take care of yourself." After they said goodnight, Sarah ended the call with a relieved sigh. Something in his tone gave her the sense that even with his hectic corporate life, he was determined to keep them in his orbit. She found Lily peering at her from the living room, clutching her teddy. "Is he coming soon?" Lily asked with big, hopeful eyes. Sarah mustered a reassuring smile. "Not today, but soon, I promise." They settled in for the night, Lily drifting off to sleep amid crayons and stuffed animals. Sarah, however, lay awake on her old sofa bed. The excitement over her new mentorship mingled with the quiet longing to see Andrew. She realized that as their bond strengthened, so did her fears of messing it all up. What if the office rumors grew louder? What if Andrew's big business responsibilities overshadowed his involvement with Lily? Yet, every time doubt rose, she replayed the gentle way he'd carried Lily, the way he'd brushed back her hair. That image was enough to steady her heart, reminding her that Andrew's sincerity was real, and for now, that would be enough. The next days followed a similar rhythm. Sarah dove into her admin responsibilities, then participated in short training sessions with one of the junior designers each afternoon. She learned about color theory, layering software, and brand alignment. She felt her skills growing each day, her confidence blooming. Even Ms. Castillo dropped the occasional encouraging remark in passing, which made Sarah feel more alive than she had in years. Andrew, for his part, remained elusive in person. His schedule a whirlwind of meetings, but each evening he managed a brief phone call or at least a heartfelt text. Lily started sleeping with Sarah's phone under her pillow once it was set to silent, hoping Andrew might call before she nodded off. Sarah realized that Lily's attachment was growing, but it came with an undercurrent of risk. What if Andrew didn't maintain his presence? She tried to soothe her daughter's concerns, but she knew only time would reveal if Andrew's devotion could weather the storms of corporate demands. By Friday, though, Andrew finally caught her in the hallway near the elevator. She had just finished a design shadow session and was on her way back to her desk. When she spotted him stepping out of the elevator, her pulse jumped. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, but his smile was genuine. "Sarah, hey, I was hoping to find you." A few employees passed by, eyeing them curiously. Sarah forced a polite, neutral stance. "Hi, Mr. Sullivan," she said, adopting the work-appropriate tone. Then, softly, "How are you?" He glanced around. "I'm surviving. Can we talk somewhere?" They ended up ducking into an empty meeting room, the frosted glass walls offering a bit of privacy from the corridor. Andrew's shoulders seemed to relax the moment the door shut. "I wanted to see how you're doing with the mentorship. Ms. Castillo says you're doing great." Sarah's cheeks warmed. "It's going well, yes, I'm really enjoying it." He nodded, fiddling with his watch band. "I'm glad. Also, I wanted to see if you and Lily might be free this Sunday. I've got tickets to a kid-friendly puppet show downtown. Figured it might be a nice treat if Lily's into that sort of thing." Sarah's heart fluttered. She pictured Lily's wide-eyed delight at the mention of puppets and happily nodded. Yes, she would love that. We're free. Andrew's relieved smile filled the small room with warmth. He stepped forward slightly, gaze softening. "Thank you," he murmured. I know I've been distant this week, but I promise you're both on my mind." Sarah felt an urge to rest a hand on his arm, to close the small distance between them. But she resisted, uncertain if the glass-walled environment might invite prying eyes. Instead, she offered a gentle smile. "We understand. Life is busy. Just thank you for staying connected." He exhaled, seemingly reluctant to part ways. But footsteps sounded outside the door, and they both knew that lingering too long might stoke rumors. So he settled for one final glance. "Sunday afternoon, then. I'll pick you up?" Sarah nodded, stepping back. "Sounds perfect, Mr. Sullivan." He smiled at her use of his formal title and quietly left, leaving Sarah in the hush of the empty meeting room. Her heart pulsed with hope and a sliver of longing. Sunday couldn't arrive fast enough. She only prayed that this new closeness they were building would keep growing, step by step, binding them together into something that might finally resemble a family. Sunday arrived with a crispness in the air that hinted at the changing seasons. Sarah woke earlier than usual, buzzing with the anticipation of the day's plans. By the time Lily stirred, Sarah was in the kitchen, brewing a modest pot of coffee and checking her phone for any last-minute messages from Andrew. None yet, which only heightened her mixture of excitement and nerves. The puppet show was scheduled for early afternoon, so Sarah had the morning to prepare Lily and herself and still get a small bundle of chores done around the apartment. Lily, as expected, woke up full of bright energy, bounding into the living room, hair tousled. "Is it today? Is Andrew picking us up?" Sarah smiled. "Yes, he'll be here after lunch. We'll eat something small at home first, then go watch the puppets. Sound good?" Lily grinned, her eyes shining. "Can I wear my new shoes?" She ran to her bedroom, returning with a pair of sneakers Sarah had recently found on sale, purple and sparkly. Sarah laughed and nodded. "Yes, as long as they're comfortable," she teased, setting out cereal and fruit for breakfast. Lily devoured her bowl with gusto, occasionally bursting into a soft hum of excitement about the show. Meanwhile, Sarah sipped coffee, her gaze flicking to the living room window. She recalled her old routine, rushing around, barely having time to think about special outings, let alone actually taking Lily anywhere so nice. Now, here they were, about to see a puppet show, courtesy of a father who had found them by sheer fate. The thought made her heart squeeze. After tidying up the kitchen, she led Lily through their usual get-ready routine, brushing hair, washing faces, picking out clothes. Lily insisted on wearing a bright pink top to match the purple sneakers, and Sarah did her best to smooth out the tangles in her hair. For her own outfit, Sarah chose a soft gray sweater with slim black jeans, casual but neat. She remembered how Andrew often dressed comfortably outside the office, and she wanted to reflect that sense of relaxed ease while still feeling put together. As noon approached, Lily paced in front of the window overlooking the street. Every sound from outside made the child perk up, asking, "Is that Andrew?" Until Sarah gently reminded her it wasn't time just yet. Finally, at 12:30, a car horn sounded from below and Sarah looked out to see Andrew's SUV pulling up at the curb. Lily squealed, grabbing her small backpack with a flourish. Sarah double-checked the apartment locks, then they headed downstairs. The moment she opened the building's front door, Andrew stepped out of his vehicle, a bright smile on his face. He wore a casual navy sweater, dark jeans, and the relieved look of someone who finally had a day off. When Lily spotted him, she let out a gleeful, "Andrew!" and rushed forward. He crouched to greet her, arms ready. "Hey, kiddo!" he laughed, giving her a gentle side hug. "Excited for the show?" "Yes!" Lily crowed, stepping back to show off her sparkly sneakers. "Do you like my shoes?" Andrew feigned a gasp, eyes widening. "They're amazing. Might even outshine the puppets." Lily beamed at the compliment. Sarah approached quietly, a soft smile curving her lips. "Good afternoon," she said, meeting Andrew's gaze. Up close, she could see faint shadows beneath his eyes. The stress of the past week must have been tough, but he looked content, or at least relieved, to be here now. "Afternoon," he echoed, warm gratitude evident in his tone. "Ready?" Sarah nodded. "Let's go." Andrew helped Lily settle into the back seat, carefully adjusting her car seat straps. Then he opened the passenger door for Sarah, a gentle courtesy that made her heart flutter. Moments later, they were off, heading across town. The drive took them through a bustling main avenue, past shops and cafes, until they reached the small theater district. The venue itself was a cozy, old-fashioned building with a marquee announcing, "Puppet Adventures, fun for the whole family." Lily pressed her nose to the window. "Look at all the lights," she said, eyes shining. Andrew pulled into a nearby lot, and they hopped out. The sidewalk teemed with other families, children bouncing eagerly, parents juggling snacks and tickets. As they approached the entrance, Lily clung to Andrew's hand on one side and Sarah's on the other, forming a triangle of excitement. Sarah glanced around, noticing couples, strollers, grandparents, everyone glowing with that weekend freedom. Inside, the lobby buzzed with animated chatter. Rows of colorful posters and puppet paraphernalia lined the walls, and the soft aroma of popcorn lingered in the air. Andrew guided them to a ticket counter. "I picked up our tickets in advance," he said, taking out an envelope. Lily hopped in place, peeking over the counter. Once they had their tickets scanned, they were ushered toward the main auditorium. The space was cheerful, with plush seats arranged before a modest stage draped in bright curtains. Lily nearly skipped down the aisle, urging Sarah and Andrew to move faster. They found seats near the middle, Lily quickly settling between them. Music played lightly overhead, and parents helped kids get comfortable. "This is your first puppet show, right?" Sarah asked Lily, smoothing the child's hair. Lily nodded, big eyes scanning every detail. "I saw puppets on TV once, but not real ones," she whispered reverently. Andrew leaned over, whispering conspiratorially, "Wait till you see them live. They'll probably come out dancing." Lily giggled, enthralled. As they waited for the show to start, Sarah took in the scene around them. She and Andrew sat so naturally beside Lily, as though this were a routine family outing. She glanced sideways at him, noticing how he slouched just enough to match Lily's height, how he occasionally turned to Sarah with a subtle smile in his eyes. The hush of an auditorium awaiting a performance felt intimate and safe. For a moment, she forgot her lingering anxieties, the questions about the future, about balancing personal and professional. Here, right now, they were just three people sharing a moment of joy. Suddenly, the lights dimmed, hushes rippling through the audience. Lily squeezed Sarah's hand, her face alight. The curtains parted, revealing a whimsical puppet stage set with cartoonish houses and a painted sky. Then the puppets appeared, fabric creations with oversized eyes, each with a distinct color and personality. They bounced across the stage, accompanied by lively music. Laughter and applause broke out as the puppets introduced themselves, talking in high-pitched voices that enchanted the kids. Lily grinned so broadly Sarah thought her cheeks might burst. She clapped along with the audience, occasionally whispering commentary, "Mommy, look at that pink puppet," until the story swept her away. Andrew seemed equally captivated, if not by the puppets, then by Lily's reaction. Sarah caught him watching their daughter with tender awe, as though memorizing every expression. The performance lasted a delightful 45 minutes, sing-alongs, silly dances, a simple storyline about friendship and sharing. When it ended, the puppets bowed and children stood clapping, cheering for an encore. Lily joined in, her eyes practically shimmering. As the house lights came back on, the theater buzzed with cheerful chaos. Parents guided their children out, some heading for souvenirs in the lobby. Lily tugged at Andrew's sleeve. "Can we see the puppets?" she asked eagerly, having spotted a small sign indicating the puppeteers would greet fans in the foyer. Andrew exchanged a glance with Sarah, who shrugged with a smile. "Sure," he said, and Lily squealed in excitement. They followed the crowd into the lobby, where a corner had been sectioned off for a quick meet and greet. A couple of the puppets perched on a table with the puppeteers behind them, waving at kids and posing for photos. Lily waited in line, wriggling with anticipation. When it was her turn, she shyly approached the bright blue puppet she'd adored during the show. The puppet spoke to her with a playful squeak, asking her name, complimenting her sparkly shoes. Lily giggled in starstruck delight as Sarah snapped a few photos. Andrew stooped to Lily's level, quietly prompting, "Say thank you." Lily did, giving a sweet wave. Then the puppet insisted on a group picture, so Andrew gently guided Sarah into the frame. The puppeteer snapped a shot with Andrew's phone, Lily in the middle, flanked by a puppet on one side, her parents on the other. In that silly, half-magical instant, Sarah felt a jolt of emotion. She realized this was their first real family photo, even if it included a talking puppet. After they stepped aside to let the next family through, Lily chattered excitedly about the puppet's voice. Andrew listened, nodding attentively. Outside, the sun had brightened the day further, and the city streets seemed lit with a late autumn glow. "Hungry?" Andrew asked them both. "We could grab lunch or a snack somewhere nearby." Lily chimed in. "Ice cream again?" Andrew chuckled. "Maybe not only ice cream, but if we find a place with desserts, sure." Sarah laughed, recalling how Lily always managed to steer them towards sweets. They ended up walking a couple of blocks to a small cafe that served sandwiches and pastries. Lily insisted on a grilled cheese, while Andrew and Sarah chose paninis. As they waited, Lily perched on the seat next to Sarah, scribbling in her little notebook. Andrew leaned across the table. "So," he said quietly, "how are things at work? Are the design sessions going well?" Sarah nodded, her pulse fluttering at the memory of her new mentorship. "Yes, Ms. Castillo gave me more tasks to practice. I'm learning a lot. It's exciting. And a bit overwhelming at times." Andrew's eyes shone with encouragement. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. "Just remember to pace yourself and let me know if you ever need support." A faint blush warmed Sarah's cheeks. "Thank you," she murmured. She wanted to return the question, ask about his load of meetings and corporate fires to put out, but Lily slid her notebook onto the table, pointing. "Look, I drew the puppet show!" she exclaimed. The page featured a small stage with stick figure puppets, plus 3 people in the audience labeled Mommy, me, and Andrew. Andrew grinned, gently tapping the stick figures. "You got my hair right," he teased, noticing the swirling black lines Lily had used. She beamed with pride. Their sandwiches and Lily's grilled cheese arrived, and conversation flowed easily while they ate. Andrew asked Lily about her favorite part of the show. She recounted every detail, from the pink puppet's jokes to the final bow. Sarah, listening, felt a fond admiration for how engaged Andrew was, genuinely fascinated by Lily's perspective. At some point, Lily needed the restroom, so Sarah escorted her. When they returned, she saw Andrew checking his phone, a faint crease on his brow. The moment he noticed them, he pocketed the device, face composed once again. Sarah offered a questioning look, but he just shook his head lightly, implying it was nothing serious. She could guess it might be a work text or email. The demands of his position never fully released him, not even on a weekend. But at least he was trying. They lingered in the cafe until Lily's energy began to flag, perhaps from all the excitement. Andrew paid the bill with a quiet determination that left Sarah no room to argue. She felt a pang of guilt at letting him shoulder expenses, but also recognized he was just eager to provide for them in whatever small ways he could. In the car, Lily dozed off, lulled by the gentle hum of traffic. Andrew drove carefully through the city, occasionally sneaking glances at the sleeping child in the rearview mirror. "She's so full of life," he said softly. "It amazes me every time." Sarah studied his profile. "She is," she murmured, acknowledging the undercurrent of sadness that came with having missed so many years of Lily's early growth. But now, seeing him step into fatherhood with such sincere devotion, it moved her in ways she struggled to articulate. When they reached Sarah's apartment, Andrew parked in the same spot as before, gazing up at the building. Lily stirred, rubbing her eyes. "We're home?" she asked with a pout. She would have gladly stayed out longer. "I have a couple errands," Andrew explained gently. "But I promise we'll do another adventure soon, maybe next weekend." Lily nodded, pushing her seatbelt off. Andrew came around, lifting her out of the car seat. The girl embraced him in a small, cozy hug, burying her face in his shoulder for a moment before shifting to Sarah's side. It was a gesture so simple and pure that it nearly broke Sarah's heart. They walked upstairs together, Lily trudging sleepily. At the apartment door, Andrew lingered as if reluctant to part ways. "Thank you for coming today," he said softly. "I really needed this, more than you know." Sarah's chest tightened at the sincerity in his voice. "We had a wonderful time," she replied. "Thank you for inviting us." He glanced down the hallway, then quickly bent forward, giving Lily a soft pat on the head. "Take care, kiddo," he whispered, and Lily gave him a tiny wave. Then Andrew met Sarah's eyes, hesitant as if he wanted to offer more, a hug or a kiss on the cheek, but he held back. Instead, he murmured, "I'll call you," and backed away, hands in his pockets. When the door shut behind them, Lily trudged off to her bedroom. Sarah pressed her back against the door, emotions swirling in her chest. The day had felt perfect in its own quiet, simple way, a microcosm of what their lives could be if they managed to remain woven together despite external pressures. She heard Lily rummaging in her bedroom, likely for crayons. Sarah walked over to the window, gazing down at the street. Andrew's SUV was still there, engine idling. She wondered if he was staring up, wanting to be sure they were safely home. A moment later, the vehicle pulled away, and Sarah, watching it vanish down the street, told herself that these new, fragile bonds could hold. They had to. There was too much at stake. All she could do was wait for his call, rely on his promise, and trust that what had started as a series of chance meetings could solidify into something none of them had dared to dream. A genuine family, finally together. In the weeks that followed the puppet show outing, Sarah found her days balancing on a thin line between familiar responsibilities and the new horizons opening up before her. Early mornings still saw her rushing to dress Lily, feed her a quick breakfast, and hop on the bus toward Sullivan Corp, but a spark of anticipation now illuminated even her most mundane tasks. She had her regular administrative work in the marketing department, and in the afternoons, the design mentorship sessions that awakened a passion she hadn't realized she possessed. She discovered how color gradients could transform an ad's mood, how typography choices might subtly influence customers, and how brand identity extended from a single logo to an entire aesthetic experience. The terminology was new, the software sometimes tricky, but Sarah thrived on the challenge. The junior designers seemed to welcome her gently, curious about her background but mostly impressed by how quickly she picked up nuances. Lily, too, began chattering about Mommy's design job, proudly telling her teacher at the community center that Sarah made pretty pictures at her office. It warmed Sarah's heart, and she found herself bringing home bits of her new skill set, showing Lily how to blend crayon colors or apply patterns in her playful drawings. The child soaked it up, forging an even stronger bond with her mother. Meanwhile, Andrew's presence remained a reassuring yet complicated undercurrent in their lives. On some days, Sarah would spot him through the glass walls of the upper-floor corridors, deep in conversation with department heads or leading a conference call from behind the large boardroom table. He rarely intruded on the marketing floor, perhaps to avoid fueling gossip, but he'd send her supportive messages over the company's chat system, asking how the mentorship was going or scheduling short calls to check on Lily's well-being. Their personal interactions were carefully orchestrated. Andrew took them on small weekend excursions whenever his schedule allowed, sometimes for a quick lunch in the city, other times for a simple stroll by the riverbank where Lily could toss pebbles into the water. Each outing reinforced the budding bond between father and daughter. Sarah watched them together, her heart swelling with quiet joy, tempered by the unavoidable worry of whether corporate demands might eventually pull Andrew away. It wasn't just Andrew's time that concerned her. More than once, she caught a co-worker eyeing her curiously or overheard whispers in the break room. "She's the CEO's favorite," someone muttered one day as she passed by. "That's how she got the mentorship so fast." The words stung, but Sarah forced herself to keep her head high. She knew how hard she was working, how diligently she studied design in her off hours. It wasn't favoritism, or so she tried to reassure herself. Andrew might be the boss, but Ms. Castillo was the one who recognized her potential. Still, the rumors rattled her. One gray afternoon, after a particularly tense meeting about an upcoming product launch, Sarah found herself alone in a break room corner, stirring a cup of tea. A co-worker she barely knew, a sharp-tongued woman from PR, slid up beside her. "So," the woman began, a forced, casual note in her voice, "I hear you're in that new design mentorship. Pretty lucky, huh?" "I tried for something like that once. Didn't even get a call back." Sarah glanced at her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator, trying to hide her discomfort. "I'm grateful for the opportunity," she said evenly, taking a sip of her tea. "It's been a wonderful experience so far." The woman shrugged, lips twisting. "Yeah, I bet. You know, people say you have an in with the CEO." Her tone dripped with insinuation. "Must be nice." A rush of cold anger mingled with embarrassment in Sarah's stomach. She kept her voice calm. "I earned my place here," she said softly, willing her hands not to shake. "Ms. Castillo is the one who offered me the mentorship based on my work performance." An uncomfortable silence stretched. Then the co-worker sniffed, turning on her heel. "Sure," she muttered, stepping away. "Keep telling yourself that." She exited the break room, leaving Sarah staring after her, tea forgotten. That evening, the exchange replayed in Sarah's mind like a stuck record. She tried to focus on Lily's cheerful stories about the day, on cooking dinner, on organizing her design notes. But the co-worker's words burned in her thoughts. Was it only a matter of time before rumors reached Andrew's ears? Would the HR department question the legitimacy of her mentorship? The prospect filled her with dread. She refused to let Lily's future become collateral damage in an office rumor mill. Before bed, she typed a message to Andrew, not sure if she'd send it. "Andrew, there's a lot of talk going around the office implying I got special treatment. It's making me uncomfortable. I'm not sure what to do." She hovered over the send button, heart pounding. She hated the idea of burdening him with petty workplace drama. He was the CEO. Maybe he'd dismiss it as typical water cooler gossip. But it mattered to her. She wanted the respect of her colleagues, not their snide remarks. After a minute, she decided to send it. The arrow icon blinked away, leaving her in anxious silence. She busied herself tidying the living room until her phone chimed. Andrew's reply was swift. "I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I never intended for you to be targeted by rumors. Let's talk tomorrow. Would dinner at my place help us figure this out? Or can I come by yours? I want to handle this carefully." Sarah sank onto the sofa bed, relief mixing with apprehension. She typed back, "Maybe your place is better. Lily can watch a movie while we discuss. I'll come after picking her up tomorrow if that's okay." He agreed, and they set a time for early evening. Sarah turned off her phone, inhaling slowly. She told herself it was good they'd have a chance to talk. If they handled this openly, maybe the rumors would die down. But she couldn't deny the swirl of tension in her gut. She needed Andrew's help, yes, but she also worried about overstepping boundaries, appearing like she was leaning on the CEO for personal support. The entire situation felt like walking a tightrope. The next day at work, she tried to maintain focus on her tasks. She forced a polite smile with co-workers, though a faint chill seemed to linger from the rumors. Ms. Castillo sensed Sarah's subdued mood and asked if everything was all right. Sarah offered a vague answer, lack of sleep, perhaps. She didn't want to fan the flames by complaining about staff gossip. Instead, she channeled her energy into design tasks, making sure every detail was perfect. By late afternoon, she ducked out to pick Lily up, then took a bus toward Andrew's address. Lily fussed about wanting to see Andrew, and Sarah managed a reassuring grin. "Yes, we're going to his place for dinner. You can watch a movie on his couch." The child squealed, hugging her purple backpack. They arrived to find Andrew waiting in the lobby, wearing a neatly pressed shirt and a kind smile. He stooped to greet Lily, offering her a playful high five before guiding them upstairs. In the elevator, Lily stood between them, glancing at the reflective doors. Sarah caught Andrew's eye and exhaled a silent wave of gratitude for his warmth. Inside his condominium, Lily immediately clapped upon seeing a small kids' corner that Andrew had set up, a few coloring books, cushions, and even a stuffed animal. "I thought you might like a place to hang out," he explained, ruffling Lily's hair. The child beamed, dropping her backpack and plopping onto the cushions. Sarah watched, touched by Andrew's effort to make Lily feel at home here. The faint aroma of takeout wafted from the open kitchen. Andrew led Sarah to the table where boxes of Thai food awaited. "I didn't have time to cook," he admitted with a wry smile. "Hope you like pad thai or fried rice." They settled in to eat, Lily enthralled by the idea of noodles in a little white box, giggling at the chopsticks. For a while, conversation flowed easily. Andrew asked Lily about school. Lily described a funny incident with crayons and paint. But once Lily was content, Andrew glanced at Sarah with a more serious expression, nodding toward the living room. Sarah rose, guiding Lily to the plush sofa and setting up a children's cartoon on Andrew's TV. Then she joined him in the adjacent seating area, where they could talk quietly without Lily overhearing. "Tell me more about these rumors," Andrew began gently. Sarah explained, voice low, how some co-workers seemed to think she was only in the design mentorship because of Andrew's influence. She shared the cutting remarks she'd overheard, the tension she felt in the break room. Andrew's jaw tightened, and he let out a slow breath. "I hate that you're going through this," he said. "It's an unfortunate side effect of me being CEO. Anything I do, like hiring you or speaking with you, can be twisted into gossip." Sarah folded her hands in her lap. "I don't want to cause trouble, but it hurts to think they believe I haven't earned my spot." Her voice quivered. "I'm working hard. Ms. Castillo knows that. But the negativity is draining." Andrew gently reached for her hand, eyes concerned. "I understand," he murmured. "I'll speak with HR and Ms. Castillo, see if we can clarify the mentorship criteria so people know it's legitimate. I don't want you overshadowed by these rumors. Or we can try to keep some distance at the office if that helps." Sarah hesitated. Keeping distance might just reinforce the idea that we're hiding something. But maybe it's best we limit any personal moments in front of colleagues. People see everything. Andrew's gaze flicked to Lily, who was absorbed in the cartoon's colorful characters. Then he met Sarah's eyes again, sorrow etched in his expression. "I'll do whatever helps you feel more comfortable," he said softly. "But I also don't want Lily to sense we're pulling apart in any way. She's already been denied enough time with her father." Sarah nodded, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. "We'll figure out a balance," she said, voice tight. "I just want to be respected for my work, not seen as your secret friend or something." Andrew's grip on her hand tightened. "You're more than that. You're Lily's mother and an incredibly talented person. I won't let petty gossip overshadow that." They fell silent, the hum of the TV filling the gap. For a moment, the magnitude of the situation pressed in. They were building a relationship that was both deeply personal and entangled in a corporate environment. Andrew's phone buzzed on the table, momentarily diverting his attention. He glanced at the screen and sighed. "They need me in a short-notice video conference about an overseas partnership. It never ends," he murmured. Sarah nodded, pulling her hand back reluctantly. She rose. "I'll check on Lily then. We won't keep you." Andrew stood as well, expression torn. "No, it's fine. Stay here with Lily. Make yourselves comfortable. It won't take long, hopefully." He hesitated, then leaned in and placed a soft, grateful kiss on Sarah's temple. "Thank you for talking to me." Before Sarah could reply, he hurried off to his home office, phone in hand. She sank onto the couch next to Lily, who looked up from the cartoon. "Where's Andrew going?" "Work call, sweetie," Sarah said quietly, patting Lily's knee. "He'll be back soon." Lily nodded, returning her focus to the bright cartoon. Sarah stared at the TV without really seeing it, mind awash with conflicting thoughts. Andrew's vow of support comforted her, yet she dreaded Monday morning, the whispered remarks that might greet her. She feared how it could escalate, potentially harming Andrew's reputation or her own. In that moment, she craved a reality where they could be free from prying eyes and malicious assumptions, just a mother, father, and daughter creating a life together. Minutes turned into an hour. Lily grew sleepy against Sarah's side, lulled by the warmth of the plush couch. Finally, Andrew reappeared, brow creased with tension but offering a weary smile. "Sorry about that," he muttered. International calls never end quickly. Sarah carefully stood, shifting Lily so she could lie down with her little stuffed cat. "No worries," she said, voice soft. We should probably head home soon. It's getting late." She didn't add that Lily had school in the morning or that she was anxious about facing the rumor mill. Andrew seemed to sense her hesitation. "Let me drive you both," he offered, looking at Lily's half-asleep form. "No sense taking the bus this time of night." Sarah nodded, grateful. She carefully coaxed Lily awake long enough to guide her to the door. In the elevator, Andrew held Lily's small hand. Once in the car, Lily dozed off again, letting out soft sighs. Sarah watched Andrew's silhouette in the dim streetlights, noticing the subtle sadness in his eyes. She realized he felt torn too, wanting to keep them close but bound by corporate obligations and social constraints. They arrived at her apartment, and Andrew helped carry Lily upstairs, just as he'd done before. This time, Lily stirred a little, mumbling, "Andrew," then nestling into her pillow. Sarah thanked him quietly, tucking Lily in. In the living room, they paused by the door. Neither quite wanted to say goodbye, but the moment demanded it. Andrew spoke first, voice hushed. "I'll handle the rumors. I promise." Sarah nodded, exhaustion tugging at her. "Thank you, and thank you for tonight, for hearing me out." He nodded, then slowly reached forward, brushing a gentle hand along her cheek. In a single moment, the weight of the day, its joys, its fears, blended into one tender gesture. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, leaning into his palm. "Good night," she whispered. "Good night," he echoed, stepping back. Without another word, he slipped into the hallway and she closed the door behind him, heart heavy and full at once. In the hush that followed, she exhaled, resting her head against the door's surface. Tomorrow she would return to an office that might judge her or question her motives. But Andrew's reassurance and the quiet strength of what they shared would guide her forward. For Lily's sake, and maybe for her own, she would face the rumors, prove her worth, and keep fighting for the fragile but precious family they were building, one hesitant step at a time. Monday arrived like a storm front rolling in. Gray clouds cloaked the early morning sky, mirroring the heaviness Sarah felt as she stepped onto the bus. Lily dozed lightly against her side, lulled by the jostling ride. Ordinarily, Sarah might have taken pleasure in these precious quiet moments with her daughter, but today, her mind was crowded with anxiety about the office, about the whispers she might face the moment she walked in. She'd spent the weekend trying to brace herself, reminding herself that Andrew was on her side, that Ms. Castillo valued her work. But the sting of her coworkers' comments still burned. She hated the thought of people dismissing her efforts because they believed she had a direct line to the CEO's favor. When they reached the community center, Lily woke and gave Sarah a sleepy hug goodbye. Her typical bright chatter subdued. "Andrew's fixing the trouble at your work, right?" she asked in her small voice. Sarah forced a smile. "He's going to help, yes," she said softly, tamping down the ache inside. She knelt to adjust Lily's backpack. "I'll pick you up as usual. Have a great day, sweetheart." Lily nodded, wandering into the center with a last wave. Sarah arrived at Sullivan Corp. with a knot in her stomach, stepping off the elevator onto the marketing floor. Her usual seat beckoned, but she felt eyes flick in her direction the moment she emerged. Shoulders squared, she greeted the nearest colleagues, forcing a polite smile. Most replied in a neutral, courteous manner, but she didn't miss the couple of whispered side comments once she'd passed. She sat down, powered on her computer, and attempted to lose herself in the day's tasks, coordinating schedules for Ms. Castillo, reviewing design notes for her mentorship. She was determined not to let her anxiety show, but every ring of her desk phone, every beep of the company chat, made her pulse jump. By mid-morning, Ms. Castillo strode into the marketing area with an air of purpose, calling Sarah into the department's main conference room. Sarah obeyed, half expecting a tense conversation about the rumors. Instead, she found a small gathering of employees, some from marketing, a few from HR. To her surprise, Andrew stood near the head of the table, arms folded calmly across his chest. Sarah's heart hammered. She took a seat around the table, noticing that the co-worker who'd confronted her in the break room was also present, looking uneasy. Ms. Castillo cleared her throat. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," she began. "We'd like to address concerns regarding our new internal mentorship program and specifically Sarah Miller's participation." Sarah's cheeks flamed. So this is how it's happening, she thought, wishing she could disappear. But Andrew's voice broke the tension. "Over the past weeks, I've heard quiet grumblings about favoritism," he said, meeting people's eyes in turn. "I want to clarify the process by which Ms. Miller was selected." Ms. Castillo nodded, passing out printed documents. "We implemented a pilot program to identify employees showing promise in design. Criteria included accuracy, attention to detail, and leadership potential. I personally evaluated multiple candidates. Sarah's consistency and brand alignment caught my attention, and I invited her to join. Mr. Sullivan's role was to approve the pilot as a whole, not to hand-pick individuals." Sarah felt her throat tighten with emotion. She scanned the faces around the table. Some looked mildly embarrassed, others intrigued. Andrew continued, "We operate on merit here. That extends to any new program. I trust Ms. Castillo's judgment. If she believes Sarah is qualified, that's enough for me." He paused, glancing at Sarah. "However, I also want to acknowledge that Sarah and I have personal connections. I won't hide that. But that connection did not dictate her mentorship invitation." A hush fell, the tension thick. Sarah's heart pounded. Andrew's expression remained composed, but his eyes held a resolute gleam. He was standing up for her, openly before staff. Ms. Castillo spread her hands. "To put it plainly, Sarah has delivered excellent work. If anyone questions that, I'd be happy to show you her performance metrics, her file reviews, and the design tasks she's completed. I take full responsibility for inviting her into the program." Silence lingered, a few staff members trading awkward glances. At last, an HR representative, a middle-aged man with a neutral smile, spoke up. "It's standard to ensure fairness in pilot programs. Ms. Miller, your track record indeed reflects the skills Ms. Castillo mentioned. So from HR's standpoint, there's no irregularity." Relief washed over Sarah in a tremulous wave. Andrew locked eyes with her for an instant, offering a reassuring nod. She mustered her courage, clearing her throat. "I appreciate the opportunity," she said quietly, "and I'm working hard. If anyone has doubts about the quality of my work, I'm always open to feedback." She aimed a measured glance around the table, especially at the co-worker who'd confronted her. The woman kept her gaze averted, fiddling with a pen. The meeting wrapped up with Ms. Castillo reiterating that the mentorship pilot was open to employees who met certain criteria and that they'd be expanding it after the pilot phase. People gathered their papers, drifting out. Andrew lingered at the far end of the table, engaged in a quiet conversation with Ms. Castillo. Sarah quietly left, her nerves still trembling but an immense weight lifting from her shoulders. Back at her desk, she exhaled shakily, letting the moment sink in. Andrew and Ms. Castillo had systematically dismantled the rumor that she'd been given an undeserved advantage. Though not everyone might be swayed, official statements from leadership would hopefully quell the worst of the gossip. Maybe now she could breathe a bit easier. And breathe she did. Over the next couple of days, the atmosphere shifted. No more snide remarks in the break room, no more pointed stares. A couple of colleagues even apologized indirectly, saying things like, "Guess they really trust your eye for design," or "Heard Ms. Castillo praising you at the staff huddle." Sarah accepted these tiny olive branches with a composed smile, letting her work speak louder than any rumor ever could. Meanwhile, Andrew maintained a discreet distance, exchanging only occasional professional emails or short necessary calls. But each evening he'd send a text or ring her phone, checking on Lily on Sarah's day. Their personal closeness thrived in the quiet margins outside office hours, where they could be themselves without prying eyes. By the time the weekend rolled around, Sarah felt like she'd come out of a tunnel into warm sunlight. Lily eagerly anticipated another outing with Andrew, though the day's forecast threatened rain. Sarah and Andrew decided on an indoor plan, a visit to a children's museum. On Saturday morning, Andrew arrived early, wearing a relaxed jacket, a gentle grin on his face. The tension that had haunted their last conversation at his condo seemed to have eased. They drove through light drizzle, Lily in the back seat humming to herself. Andrew asked Sarah softly, "How are things at work now? Better?" Sarah nodded. "Yes. No more jabs or suspicious looks. Ms. Castillo and the HR folks made it pretty clear I'm there because of my efforts, not favoritism." Andrew's knuckles relaxed on the steering wheel. "Good," he murmured. "I'm glad." They reached the Children's Museum, a sprawling, brightly lit space filled with interactive exhibits, science displays, and craft zones. Lily darted from station to station, enthralled by every colorful corner. Andrew followed with gentle amusement, occasionally leaning down to read the exhibit prompts to her or help her push buttons that launched little contraptions into motion. Sarah, watching them, couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude. Despite the complexities, Andrew's commitment remained steady, and each moment Lily spent with him felt like a piece of a puzzle sliding into place. A father, mother, and child discovering how to be together. They spent hours exploring the museum's labyrinth of wonders, building foam block towers, experimenting with water tunnels, and painting at the art station. By the time Lily's energy began to wane, afternoon shadows crept across the museum's windows. When they emerged, blinking into the still drizzling sky, Andrew guided them back to the car. "Hungry?" he asked, his voice echoing Lily's own stomach rumble. They ended up finding a small diner nearby, one with old-fashioned booths and a nostalgic feel. Sarah slid into a booth next to Lily while Andrew sat across from them. They ordered sandwiches and milkshakes. Lily nearly fell asleep at the table from all the day's excitement, but perked up when the strawberry shake arrived with extra whipped cream. Sarah laughed softly, wiping a small spot of cream from Lily's chin. Andrew observed them with a relaxed smile. After a moment, he leaned forward. "There's something I want to share," he said, lowering his voice so Lily could remain focused on her shake. "I've been thinking about the future. Our future." Sarah's heart fluttered. "Yes?" He glanced at Lily, then at Sarah. "The company's been discussing the possibility of opening a new branch in another city. My father's pushing for expansions. But I'm also realizing I don't want to be the kind of CEO who's always traveling, always away. Not anymore." He hesitated, swirling the ice in his glass of soda. "I want to be present. For Lily, for you." Sarah's eyes pricked with tears. "Andrew, that's a big decision. You've worked so hard to lead Sullivan Corp." He nodded, lips pressed tight. "I'm not stepping down, but I might rearrange some roles, delegate more. Maybe even bring in a co-executive, someone to share the load. It's not final, but the idea is to free myself from constant crisis mode." She let out a slow breath, her mind spinning with what that might mean. "That's amazing," she managed, voice trembling with hope. "You deserve a life beyond the boardroom." A gentle flicker of relief crossed Andrew's face. "I was worried you'd think me irresponsible. But the fact is, I want to do this right. Be a father to Lily every day, not just on weekends." His gaze dropped to the table. "Maybe someone told me once that love can't flourish if you're never home." Sarah's heart gave a painful twist, thinking of how many lonely evenings Lily had endured, how many nights Sarah lay awake, wishing for a partner to shoulder the weight. "I think it's a brave choice," she said softly. "And Lily will be so happy." Andrew's eyes glimmered with gratitude. He opened his mouth to say more, but Lily tugged on Sarah's sleeve, then, pointing at the diner's jukebox in the corner. "Mommy, can I play a song?" With a laugh, Sarah fished out a coin, handing it to Lily. She scurried off, drifting through the half-empty diner. Andrew's smile turned warm as he watched. "She's incredible," he said in a whisper. "Every time I see her, I realize how lucky we are to have found each other again." Sarah nodded, an unspoken swirl of emotion in her chest. They still had so much to figure out. A possible shift in Andrew's role, Sarah's future in design, the stable family life they were all craving. But each day they inched closer. The memory of those rumors seemed distant now, overshadowed by a sense of unity forging among the three of them. A tune crackled from the jukebox, an old pop song that set Lily twirling in delight. Andrew laughed, rising from the booth to join her, teasingly spinning her in a mock dance. Sarah stood too, heart brimming at the sight. Father and daughter, swirling around the diner's worn floor, carefree in the moment. This was a glimpse of the life she'd once thought impossible, where Lily didn't have to go without a father, and Sarah didn't have to shoulder every burden alone. When the song ended, Lily ran back, breathless, hugging Andrew around the waist. He scooped her up. "Ready to head home, princess?" he teased. She nodded, yawning. Sarah approached, letting Lily lean against her shoulder. Andrew placed a hand at the small of Sarah's back, guiding them toward the exit. Outside, the rain had slowed to a misty drizzle, the streetlights casting halos on the slick pavement. They bundled Lily into the car, and soon the engine's purr lulled her to sleep once again. Andrew drove quietly, stealing gentle glances at Sarah. She met his gaze, warmth pulsing in her chest. No words were needed to convey the gratitude they felt, that despite every challenge they'd found a place of hope. At her apartment, Andrew carried Lily up, carefully settling her into her bed. Sarah stood in the doorway, heart brimming with affection as she watched father and daughter share a tender goodnight. When Andrew emerged, he closed Lily's door gently. They lingered in the living room, the hush around them thick with unspoken feelings. Andrew ran a hand through his hair. "I suppose I should go," he murmured, though every line of his posture hinted he didn't truly want to leave. Sarah inched closer, summoning her courage. "Stay for a few minutes," she asked. "We can just talk." She gestured toward the worn sofa. Andrew's eyes brightened, and he nodded. They settled side by side, the overhead lamp casting a soft glow. Sarah turned to face him, a slight tremor in her voice. "I can't believe how far we've come. It feels like I've known you forever, yet we've had so little real time together." Andrew reached for her hand, linking their fingers. "We're making up for it now," he said gently. His thumb brushed over her knuckles in a slow, comforting motion. "I want to keep building on this, no matter what it looks like to anyone else." Sarah's throat tightened. She thought of the rumors, the office politics, the uncertain future of Andrew's role at Sullivan Corp. But she also pictured Lily's laughter at the Children's Museum, the swirl of color in her own design mock-ups at work, and the quiet ways Andrew had proven he truly cared. "Me too," she whispered. "You, me, Lily. Maybe that's all we need to worry about for now." He leaned closer, a quiet hush enveloping them. Gently, Andrew cupped her cheek, and this time she didn't hesitate. She let him guide her into a soft, lingering kiss. It was neither rushed nor tentative. Instead, it held gratitude, promise, and the faintest taste of tears. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers, exhaling a trembling breath. There, in the tiny living room that had seen so many of Sarah's lonely nights, hope flickered like a warm flame. It wasn't a fairy tale, nor a guarantee that tomorrow would be flawless, but it was real, founded on honesty, understanding, and a shared devotion to a little girl with bright eyes and a heart big enough to bring them together. In time, Andrew stood, pressing one last gentle kiss to Sarah's temple. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said, voice husky with emotion. She followed him to the door, listening as his footsteps receded down the hallway. Then she leaned against the door, her heart beating in unison with the hush of night. In the bedroom, Lily breathed softly, drifting in innocent dreams. Sarah closed her eyes. Despite the obstacles that still lay ahead, balancing personal and professional, deflecting idle gossip, reimagining Andrew's role at the company, she felt that for the first time she wasn't living on a razor's edge. She had found a place where she and Lily could have stability, opportunity, and love, and Andrew, once a phantom from her past, had become the man shaping her future, standing bravely at her side. Tomorrow, life would resume its rhythms. Sarah's design mentorship, Lily's school routine, Andrew's swirl of corporate demands. But tonight, she allowed herself to envision the long road ahead, a road they'd traverse as a family, forging unshakable bonds out of all the broken pieces they'd once carried alone. Their story wasn't ending here. It was only just beginning. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.